bank accounts, so we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 3,000 quid, three dynamic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, you know, and they are kids, everyone involved is a kid. I mean, it's just absolute travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street.
Yeah. So there's now a label for children who skip school. You know, parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law. You know,
yes.
And parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
Universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, I mean, we're so used to criticising the police for mistakes. This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
You have to remember that Peter Murrell has been the chief executive of the SNP for nigh on a quarter of a century.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you here at Talk. It's Charlie Rowley sitting in for the amazing Alex Phillips, taking you all the way through to 1 o'clock. We'll be talking through all the top stories, the latest news and views from you lovely listeners who were brilliant yesterday, by the way, getting in touch, telling me all of your thoughts on what we were talking about. You can do the same exactly again today on 0344 499 1000. Love to hear from you. I'm going to be joined by Paul Cox for the next 3 hours. Good morning, Paul.
Hey, Charlie. Hey.
How are you?
I love that you've already set a competition between yesterday's listeners and watchers and today's. Look, yesterday was brilliant, but can you match it?
Can you match it? Can you match it? That's the question. That's the question.
Of course I can.
We'll be delighted to have your company, as I say, for the next 3 hours, taking you through all those top stories and some. Let's start with the front pages, shall we, of the news in the headlines. I'll be talking to Paul about this very shortly. We'll start with the Sunday Times. Streeting and Hunt intervene on growth crisis. This is the ex-Health Secretary, West Streeting, Health Secretary as of just a few weeks ago, and former Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, who now says scrap the triple lock and cut national insurance contributions to boost jobs. Well, who'd have thunk it that was a good idea? I think many people. Benefit checks watered down, says the Sunday Telegraph. Starmer accused of going easy on welfare cheats to prevent the system from collapse. Sir Keir Starmer is watering down checks on benefit claimants to prevent the welfare system from collapsing. So we have more people claiming benefits, so let's water it down so more people can claim. Yep. You and me both. The Sun on Sunday, 5 cops axed by royals. 5 armed cops have been banned from royal residences following a complaint by female staff of Prince William and Kate. Misogynistic claims by royal cops. Well, there you go. The royal family are doing quite a lot at the minute, and that's the last thing I think they need. The Daily Star, Ruben Diaz. I didn't cheat on Maya. No, me neither.
No.
The Observer, front page of the Observer. Well, why would we? The Mirror, kids' social media ban within weeks. Now, we've been talking about social media bans for under 16-year-olds for some time. The government now and the Prime Minister seems to have come around to the conclusion that that is the right thing to do to protect our young people. Let's see how that goes. The Sunday Express says Keir's EU reset will keep food inflation high. Yes, many Labour MPs now wanting an even closer relationship with the EU. What will that do for our UK house prices? I think we know the answer to that. Where you've left an organisation, we voted to leave over a decade ago, or coming up to a decade ago, I should say, going back into an organisation that requires us to pay even more, take even more rules, pay even more money, and have an even less say. Again, I'm not entirely sure that's the direction that most people want to take, but, you know, ever closer ties. Let's see what happens. And finally, the Mail on Sunday. BBC bias row. Excuse me, after Desert Island Disc bans Farage. We'll be talking about that story in just a second, but I am delighted to say that I'm joined now by Paul Cox, who'll be talking us through all of those stories. And we're asking the question today, why does the left feel so threatened by reform? We've got the BBC now claiming, or a biography claiming, that the BBC are going to ban Nigel Farage from appearing on Desert Island discs. Let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk to 87222, or follow us on X and just text the word @talkTV followed by your message. We will get as many calls on air as possible, and I'll be reading out all of your thoughts. But first, comedian and commentator extraordinaire and friend of mine. I think I can tell people that we work together. It was only for about 10 minutes, wasn't it, on an alternative platform?
We have worked together, yes, that's true, yeah.
But how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Charlie. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you very much.
I didn't realise you're an Arsenal fan, so commiserations.
Thank you very much. Well, I wanted to start by addressing that in the room, if I may. On the back of Mark Dolan's show, the brilliant Mark Dolan that you might have seen there, I was heavily mocked by Arsenal's defeat.
Outrageous, I thought.
I thought it was absolutely outrageous. I'm making a complaint straight after this.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no HR here, so
no. we don't have HR, but we do have the lovely Chris Jacobs, who's producing this morning, and who texted me this morning. Nothing to do with the show. Nothing to do, just checking in if I was okay. On the back of, we're both big Arsenal fans, both commiserating together. Did you watch? I
did watch the game. I'm a Portsmouth fan, so in terms of rivalry,
don't worry, no, we've all got faults.
Yeah, we've all got faults. I can't help where I was born. That's the problem. But no, I did watch it, and it was a fairly good game. It was tense. I was supporting Arsenal. I can't say that I was wholeheartedly supporting Arsenal to win the league. There's always groups of fans, and by the way, this is not including yourself and Chris, but there's always groups of fans that seem to have the most annoying fans. And in my experience, Arsenal are one of those. The other one up there actually is Newcastle, but that's another discussion for another day. But of course I did. England were playing against France, who's no one supporting France.
No.
So that's a given. That should be in some sort of constitution somewhere. But no, it was a good game. I was very disappointed to see us lose on penalties. See us.
There you are. A convert already.
Yeah.
And it's only 8 minutes past 10.
Unbelievable. I'll never live that down.
Clip that up, folks. That'll go viral.
But it was a shame. It was a real shame. They've had a tremendous season, Arsenal. They've got a tremendous squad. Arteta is a great manager. There's no two ways about it. Winning the Premier League is an incredible achievement, much in the same way as winning the Champions League, by the way. And fair play to PSG, we should say. There wasn't much between them. A lot of people say the game plan for Arsenal was very good. I thought so. As soon as PSG got back into it, though, however, they seemed like they were on the front foot most of the time. And Arsenal weren't playing for extra time and penalties, but they never quite mustered anything beyond that. So fair play to both teams. But, Arsenal are going to go out. They've got a parade today, and they'll enjoy it.
They have, and everybody will be celebrating, hopefully, that joyous occasion. And there we are. That's the end of the sports.
Yeah.
But someone who isn't celebrating this morning, by the looks of things, is Nigel Farage. Claims that he has been banned from one of the BBC's flagship programmes on Radio 4, Desert Island Discs. Now, lots of political leaders and politicians and celebrities go on, and this is basically a show where they say if they're stuck on a desert island, what would their music be, and just talk a bit more about their life and open up a bit. And it's a programme for me that allows you to get to know that person a little bit more intimately than what you might otherwise do in their normal work setting. Claims today that Nigel Farage has been banned.
Arguably the BBC's flagship interview show, been around a very long time, longer than most of the television versions of these interview type shows, and always interviewing people of note, people we would be interested in, the public would be interested in. Let's remember that the BBC is a public funded organisation, so it should represent the wide spectrum of public views, and what they're refusing to do on this basis, due to apparently staff members, woke staff members, usually younger staff members, feeling unsafe. I always find, I know I shouldn't, but I always find that tremendously humorous, the idea that they're just sat in the corner quivering because a man might have come in that has different views to them. And by the way, is polling tremendously well, is a phenomenal politician, whether you like Brexit, whether you hate Brexit, whether you like Nigel Farage and the anti-immigration policies that he so vehemently stands against, and I happen to believe in that, as I know you do, Charlie, in terms of the policy itself. So it's astonishing to me that they wouldn't, and all it's doing is further perpetuating this myth that Nigel Farage himself is some scary monster that the public needs to be fearful of. We know demonstrably so that the left are much more dangerous in terms of they've been in power, whether it be one guise or another, for a very long time, and our country is on its knees. So you're trying to tell me, the BBC, that Nigel Farage is any worse than what we've seen, any worse than the diabolical situation we find ourselves in with the Labour Party, any worse than 14 years of that particular flavour of the Tory Party, and the Greens, by the way. I don't know if Zach Polanski. I don't think Zach Polanski has been on Desert Island Discs, but I guarantee you that they wouldn't be afraid to put him on there. So they should put Nigel Farage on. Now, first things first, if this was Talk, then it'd be up to Talk if they wanted to put Farage on there. It's totally independent, private enterprise. But this is the BBC. They should be representing the wider spectrum of the British public, and they're not doing so with this.
Well, you're absolutely right. And the question, as I say, that we're asking people today is, why does the left feel so threatened by reform? And as you rightly say, in the according to the biography that's come out to suggest that the BBC would ban Nigel Farage, they wouldn't give him that platform because, as you say, staff feel threatened by him. This is taxpayers' money. It's an institution that, you're right, should be scrutinising every politician, every political leader, every political party, but it does seem to have time and time again found itself in a position where the BBC has got a bias about it. It's either spliced two speeches put together to portray Donald Trump in a particular light. It's presented a documentary on Gaza in a particular way that was produced by someone connected to Hamas. It hasn't done its checks and balances properly. It does have that left-wing leaningness to it, which I struggle to understand how we've got to that situation. But why is it then, do you think, that the left feels so threatened by reform?
They do, because it undermines everything they believe in. Look, we have to look at this almost from a religious perspective. These people, I hate that term, people from the left, people with their views, people who are completely married to the convention, I believe under all circumstances that they're right, and that if it's gone wrong, it's a quirk of fate, or it's an accident that it's gone wrong. The idea that someone like Nigel Farage, to them, could garner any popularity, let alone lead a political insurgence in the UK, is beyond comprehension. They can't imagine it. So they're refusing to believe what's going on. There's this cognitive dissonance about them, and then they're using their biggest platform, the BBC, to gaslight the rest of us into saying, you can only see this on. Look, I always say this as a comedian. Look at the comedy shows on any channel, if they've got them. If they are completely agreeing with authority, then they're not doing their job, particularly when it's satire. The whole point is to poke fun. The whole point is to be the court jester and expose the truth for what it is, irrespective, and do it in a way that makes people laugh and engage them in political discourse. All this is doing is taking their version of the world and perpetuating it even further. There are no... I mean, there's often discussions about whether there have been any right-leaning comedians on the BBC. Very rarely. I mean, Jeff Norcott's often held up, but Jeff, by his own admission, would say that he was soft centre right, soft centre left. He is a Tory, and that would have been considered disastrous, you know, just 5 years ago. But of course, now we've got a much stronger right contingent. Simon Evans, friend, colleague. He's been on the BBC, he's often on BBC Radio 4, but really there is no massive representation of different views, particularly in comedy, and that just, all that does to me is illuminate the fact that they are only accepting of one version of the truth.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, in order to remove this fear, if people, as you say, they have this figure, sort of the fear of the figurehead of being Nigel Farage, oh gosh, you know, he could be the Prime Minister, oh, how terrible that might be. And people might feel that, and people might be entitled to feel that, but the only way that you'd ever find that out is if we have a general election.
Yeah.
Which was a lovely segue into the next
Beautiful
story.
work,
Did you like that? Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Because if Andy Burnham, let's say, without getting into the depths of Makerfield, which will save me reading out all the names of the candidates for broadcasting
even though it
purposes.
would make me laugh. But I promise not to do.
Oh, it would be hell. But if any way which Andy Burnham became PM, allies around him are suggesting that he should call, and would call, a snap general election. The idea is that he'd be coming in, he'd be riding high in the polls, he'll have this honeymoon period. What do you make of that? Should we have a general election if we have a change of Prime Minister?
I don't think he'd have any choice. He would have no mandate. The only person with a mandate to lead at the moment, whether we like it or not, is Keir Starmer, who in July 2024 won a very shallow landslide. And if that's to be changed, particularly as the wider public have absolutely no say in the Labour leadership contest, then in order for Andy Burnham to wheel out any of his policies, he would have to have a backing from the public. Therefore, he would need to go to a general election. That would obviously create more carnage. In fact, I can't believe I'm saying this. The stability route is actually to stay with Starmer and perhaps call a general election in 2027. I'm not sure that's going to happen. But Andy Burnham, you know, this is one great... can't go into it too much, but I think, you know... I don't see that he has any choice other than to call a general election so that he can get any... and tell the public, tell us all what he plans to do, because he has flip-flopped so much. Brexit, the transgender debate, we have no idea what he believes, because we know what he said in 1 year and we know what he says now, and you know, it's a cynical attempt to win over the people of Makerfield, let's face it.
Well, you're absolutely right, and you mentioned the Prime Minister there. It's just been brought to my attention that the Prime Minister has written on X, he has tweeted this morning on the back of our very first conversation. Can you believe, of all things, the Prime Minister has said on X, Premier League champions and within touching distance of European glory. I don't know if he's referring to Arsenal there, in touching distance of European glory, or if that's his new policies. Well, he wants to have closer ties with the Europe. Maybe he's talking about his own European glory, getting a new job in Europe probably. But he does go on to say a season we can be immensely proud of. So there you go.
Arsenal's biggest problem is that Keir Starmer is a fan.
Yes.
Undoubtedly. There would have been many a British football fan last night that once they got over the initial disappointment of an English team not making it to become winners, will just go, oh well, that's Keir Starmer's upset, so I feel happy now. And it is a big PR issue for Arsenal. I don't think Keir Starmer represents Arsenal, but hey, he is an Arsenal fan.
There you go. Well, we'll be talking more about Keir Starmer and Kimi Badenoch coming up. Before we just go to a quick break, I'll read out some of these texts just very quickly that have got in touch on the back of our conversation. Who listens to Desert Island Discs anyway? That's from Anne in Oakley. Well, you know, fair point, I suppose. The BBC should be made to change its name as it's no longer British. Interesting one there. Good morning, Charlie. The left are so afraid of Farage because they know the game is up. The sham of the woke ideology has been revealed, and will end with a Reform UK government. That's Amanda's thoughts. Keep all those thoughts, text calls coming in. 0344 499 1000. More from Paul after the break. This is the home of common sense. This is Talk.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley sitting in for one of the most glamorous and beautiful talk presenters this weekend. No, it's not Ian Collins. It is, of course, Alex Phillips, who's having a weekend off. And I'm delighted to be joined all the way through to 1 o'clock with the legend comedian, Paul Cox.
Legend.
And there are only so many ways I can praise you.
Thank you very much.
We've got 2.5 hours to go.
I can write you a list of ways to praise me.
Please,
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Just reading out the things that I'd said.
Well, we're delighted to have you, obviously, and it's going to be a good next couple of hours. Keep your calls and texts coming in. The question we're asking people today is, why does the left feel so threatened by reform? This is on the back of claims that the BBC has banned Nigel Farage from appearing on one of its flagship programmes, Desert Island Discs. We've got a text here from Sean that's got in touch. Good morning, Charlie. The Uni Party over the last 3 decades have slowly but surely diminished, devalued and dragged the UK down. A lot of D's in there.
There was a lot of D's.
Yes, but this is an A-plus text.
Yeah.
For our once great country to be saved, we need a fresh approach. The Uni Party, and especially Labour, as in Labour, need to be sent into exile. Reform to take the helm. The task is massive and will take time and a huge effort, but just stopping the crazy anti-British policies will be infinitely better off. So if we... oh, thank you very much. I've just been handed a piece of paper here
yes.
For our viewers, which I'll tell you all about shortly. Because, I'll tell you about it now. Sean, thank you very much for your text. It was wonderful. A star from me. Now, listeners yesterday will know if we talk about by-election in Makerfield, because of Ofcom rules, we have to then read out the list of candidates, all of the names of the candidates that are standing. Now, I tiptoed around this topic yesterday. I skillfully avoided doing such matters. But comedian and someone who I did just call a legend, Paul Cox, has now gone down in my estimations, I'm afraid.
I said the word. I'm so sorry.
And so now, producer Chris has now given me a list of Makerfield by-elections that I do need to read out. And I've not looked at them yet. So here goes. All the confirmed candidates for the Makerfield by-election are as follows. We have Jake Austin for the Liberal Democrats. We have Count Binface for the Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham for the Labour Party. Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party. John Dyer, Independent. Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party. Paul Gould, Independent. Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Palm, I think that's right, Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, the Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin EU. And Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. There you are. That is the full list of all the candidates that have been confirmed for the Makerfield by-election. Thank you very much for that, Paul.
I promise not to do it again.
yes, I've just been told. It was like reading out the 3 p.m. football scores.
Yeah, possibly.
Although I did read out, we were talking about the voice of God yesterday as well, which is the voice that comes on over all these shows like The X Factor and Britain's Got Talent. Right. And I have to read out also later in the show the World Cup competition, which our friends just down the corridor here at Talk Sport are putting on. It's a great competition, which I'll read out as the show progresses. I thought I delivered it with gusto and with such authority, but apparently not. Quite the opposite. Dave there is hiding behind a stack of papers there, told me I needed to deliver it a bit more butch.
Ah, okay. A butch?
Yes.
Is that what Dave's gone
He
for?
did. Because I'm not butch enough, apparently.
Well, I disagree.
You've gone back up in my estimation. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Paul. For more candidates for the Makerfield by-election, or if you want to know more about them, you can go and Google them. We'll try and avoid Makerfield from now on in. But to prevent a situation where the Prime Minister might be unseated on the back of this by-election, the Prime Minister is hankering down in number 10, it seems to us, according to the Mail. Starmer plans to cling on to power for another 6 months as Labour is accused of tumbling into chaos and civil war. I don't know why they've been accused of tumbling into chaos and civil. I think they're already there, aren't they?
You've been convicted in jail.
Yes, yeah. I mean, what do you make of it all? It is a bit of a psychodrama. I mean, I feel I can say that as a former Conservative special advisor. I've seen my fair share of psychodramas within a political party. But this is madness, isn't it?
Of course it's madness, and the people that are suffering are us while we watch the egos in the Labour Party fight amongst themselves. And now I think Labour themselves said that it was country before party. Now it's Starmer before party before country. Country's way down the line, and it's a huge problem because obviously whilst all this is going on, nothing else is getting done. People forget that, I think, sometimes, that the blob comes to an utter standstill. Nothing is being done whatsoever. So if you were hoping for, certain sort of laws to be passed or policies to be pushed through, that's not happening. Simply not happening. And it's disastrous, really, because we're a bit of a laughingstock and people aren't taking us seriously on the world stage. And now why would they? If I was looking at... I mean, I'm a Brit through and through. I'm incredibly patriotic and I want to see us do our best, and we're not doing our best. But if you were looking in on this country now, you'd be saying to yourself, what on earth has happened to that once great country? It simply doesn't stand on its own 2 feet anymore. I mean, Keir Starmer is a human rights lawyer, middle management expert of nothing, and he is running our country, and he's running our country exactly as you expect that sort of person to do so. The sort of person who sat in rooms where people have told him he's marvellous for years without him ever being marvellous at all, and now he's leading the country as if he is, and it's not, it's less than 2 years since he came to power, and anybody with a political brain could have told you this was going to happen, except Andrew Marr, of course, who said that now we were returning to peace and tranquility.
But that's a fair point because, look, he was leader of the opposition for 5 years. He claimed he changed the Labour Party, got rid of the anti-Semitism that might have been infiltrated in the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn. That was the accusation that he put down. he's changed the Labour Party in his view. He came in with this huge majority, which nobody was able to probably tap him on the shoulder and say, well, it's a bit of a loveless landslide because people might have either stayed at home, actually, so they didn't vote, and you did win a number of constituencies, maybe on a very low turnout. But he came in on this sort of riding this wave as if everybody sort of embraced and was loving Labour. Did anybody fail to sort of tell him, OK, we're only here by default, so we've got to tread a bit more carefully. We can't do things that might be unpopular. We've got to do what we said that we're going to do. We really do have to get that growth. Don't increase tax. Don't, waste time on the Chagos Islands or anything like that. Why has nobody been able to say to Labour, look, these are the hard truths. We've got to govern in this particular way?
Because it was smoke and mirrors. He hasn't changed the Labour Party. He's changed the perception of the Labour Party. And what they mean by that is under Corbyn, there was this perception of Labour Party, and it was true, and it still exists, and they've not fixed anti-Semitism. Some of the more crazy element of the far left have evacuated and gone to the Greens, and they're obviously being found out immediately. Zach Polanski's had scrutiny shone upon him, and his popularity seems to be waning. Whatever Owen Jones is supporting, that's going to be a disaster. And I don't think that's unfair to say. And if he was here now, he'd agree with me, I'm sure. But
yes, I'm sure he would.
Yes, he absolutely would. Owen's a big fan of mine. And, because, exactly. He might know who I am, actually. He does know who I am, actually. I know he does. But, look, he has not changed the Labour Party. The Labour Party has not changed. Ostensibly, it's the same sort of... and I'm going to say this is my opinion, it's kind of woman-hating because of the trans debate. It is Israel-hating, Zionism-hating because they side with Palestine, and it is British-hating because they side with any other minority against the Brits. And this is seen and laced throughout every single policy we're likely to discuss today about the Labour Party or any policy that we've discussed previously. This Labour Party is for itself. It's for an ideology that has never worked and will never work and is not attached to reality. So this is why Labour have failed.
Well, very strong stuff. Hating.
I think they do. Yeah, I think genuinely, because the reason I use the word hate, and I try not to use that too often because much like the word racism or whatever, it gets diluted. But they hate because what they do is they're some weather vanes, aren't they? The Labour Party. Look at Starmer. Look at somebody else who's. Who I'm not going to mention. There are people within the Labour Party that are constantly flowing whichever way the political winds are flowing. I often liken them to people like Nicola Sturgeon, for instance, who's in the news a lot this week, and rightly so. She was somebody who only had one policy, and that was to get Scotland out of Great Britain, and spent the rest of the time flailing about in the wind, picking up anything on the left that might garner her some popularity. And that's what Labour are doing now. That's not politics and conviction. The reason that the BBC and people dislike Nigel Farage is because he has a conviction. The reason people hated Jeremy Corbyn is because he had a conviction. You can put those two people in the same camps, obviously at very different ends of the spectrum, but at least you knew what they stood for.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
And we don't know what this Labour Party stands for. And the danger is we have an understanding, we have a hunch what Keir Starmer wants to achieve. He's not saying it out loud, but he's doing it surreptitiously in the background, and that's much worse.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it might be the case that the left feels so threatened by reform because, as you say, Nigel has a set of views, a set of principles. People don't have to like them, but just like Jeremy Corbyn, we knew what he stood for. Exactly. At least he had a set of views, like it or not. So why does the left feel so threatened by reform? That's our question that we're asking this morning. 0344 499 1000, or get in touch by text. Text the word talk to 87222 or send us a tweet at talkTV, followed by your message. This is the home of common sense. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips, taking you all the way through to 1 p.m. And I'm delighted to be joined by a comedian, and I'm not going to give him any more praise or title the legendary Paul Cox, who Nadine has got in touch.
Doris.
Well.
We don't know.
Wait for the message. You don't know what she said yet. But good morning, chaps. I'm really enjoying the combination of Charlie Rowley and Paul Cox this morning. A wonderful mix of wit and wisdom. You can decide who's who.
I'll take
who's
either,
the
to
wit?
be honest. When he said wit, I thought, what's coming next?
Yeah,
Wisdom, okay, I'll take it.
If Charlie's laugh were to be made available on prescription, we wouldn't need antidepressants. That's very kind of you, Nadine, in Burntwood.
Very lovely message.
Very nice message. We don't know if it is Nadine, Doris. I suspect
It
not.
almost certainly is.
Bobby says, "Morning, Charlie. I do wish presenter stopped saying Starmer gets rid of anti-Semitism. I don't believe it. He's hidden it. And that goes on to... I can't actually work out what that says afterwards. But I think I get the sentiment of what you're saying, Bobby. You're absolutely right. I was saying that Keir Starmer said that he's got rid of the anti-Semitism within his party. But Paul, you said that that's not the case.
Yeah, and the role of presenter, just so everybody knows, is a difficult one. You're representing things that other people have said, and you're adding balance. So it's not like Charlie Rowley is in here going, Keir Starmer has ridden the planet of anti-Semitism. That's not true at all. But it did give me an excellent opportunity to stand up and say, no, he hasn't, and he has not.
You're absolutely right. Well, he has claimed that he changed the Labour Party. Someone else is looking to change their party is Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party, having become leader, I think, for just shy of coming up to 2 years, I think. But I'll stand corrected. I'll stand corrected by the Shadow Home Secretary, who I'm delighted to say joins me now. We've got Chris Philp down the line, coming to us from just outside the BBC in London, I can see. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for joining me this morning. I can see that you're outside the BBC, if I'm not mistaken. So I might just ask you, if we can, a story that's in the front page or on the front page of the Daily Mail. A biography is claiming that the BBC has banned Nigel Farage from appearing on Desert Island Discs. The question we're asking viewers today on Talk is, why does the left feel so threatened by reform? But I think I can broaden that question out more widely to say, why does the left feel so threatened by conservative-minded people, people on the centre-right? Is there a problem at the BBC?
Well, I think there is a bit of a problem in that people on the right tend to get censored by some media organisations, including on occasion the BBC, and you've given an example just there. I think it's completely wrong. We believe in free speech, and no political figure should get excluded from mainstream broadcast because certain individuals don't like the sound of their views. That is censorship, and it's completely at odds with this country's long-standing tradition around free speech. And if that story is true, then it's disgraceful.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think Kemi Badenoch was on Desert Island Discs a couple of weeks ago, so good that she had that opportunity. Speaking of which, Kemi Badenoch, she's had quite a busy weekend. I think she was writing in the Times, I think it was on Friday, talking about how this nation has basically been run by HR. That was her response to Tony Blair's intervention. She's now in the Telegraph today to say, I want teachers and builders to become Tory MPs. Is this part of the change of the Conservative Party to make it maybe electable again?
Yes, it is. The Conservative Party is under new leadership, under Kemi Badenoch's leadership. The party has changed, and finding different kinds of parliamentary candidates with experience rooted in the real world is obviously part of that change. It's already very clear that lots of Conservative MPs have experience in business, experience in the military, all kinds of real-world experience, whereas most Labour MPs do not. I don't think a single member of the Labour cabinet has ever set up or run a business, and I think that's a really serious problem, because it means the Labour government don't understand business, they don't understand the real world, and that's why they keep doing daft things like massively increasing welfare spending and putting up everybody's taxes to fund it, which is just a ridiculous thing to do because it's immoral, but it also kills economic growth. So we're always the party of the real world, and that's why Kemi's saying we want to make sure the candidates who stand as Conservatives at the next election do have proper real world experience, as many current Conservative MPs and members of the Shadow Cabinet do.
I mean, I can say this, I think, as a former Conservative special advisor myself, now a pundit, now presenter. But the reason why we have a Labour government, I think, was probably because of the psychodrama within the Conservative Party, the chopping and changing of leaders, all the politics that was going on. We're now seeing that, aren't we, within the Labour Party? We're now seeing this Labour government can't work out who it's going to have as its next leader. There's a leadership bid where Streeting resigned from the cabinet in order to try and force that leadership. Kemi Badenoch is saying that she wants to focus on getting the big decisions right, instead of just acting or having their MPs acting as glorified social workers. Is that the problem? Has a Labour government come in on a loveless landslide on the back of just the country rejecting the Conservatives and is now unable to take those big decisions, that they are the Labour MPs effectively glorified social workers, jumping on campaign causes, can't get to grips with cutting things like welfare, for example. Is that how you see it? And is that part of the reason why is this sort of a call to arms to get people into politics, to join the Conservative Party, to stand and take on those tough decisions, people that have worked in real life?
Yeah, I think that's right. We do need people from those backgrounds to get into politics. I mean, I set up and ran businesses for 15 years before becoming an MP. The first company I set up, I started off driving the delivery van myself, and a few years later that company was turning over tens of millions of pounds. We need people who have built businesses, who have worked in the real world, who have experience in the armed forces to come into politics, particularly Conservative politics. And I think we are the only party, the Conservative Party, who are doing the serious thinking about fixing our country's problems. The Labour Party, as you've said, seem to have descended into some kind of internal civil war where they're battling each other as to who takes over. But as Tony Blair pointed out in his essay last week or a few days ago, the Labour Party doesn't have any plan for the country. They got elected almost by default with no plan for the country, and where there are problems that need fixing, Labour MPs and the Labour Party generally is not willing to do the difficult things. They're not willing to cut welfare, right, which we need to do in order to enable us to cut taxes on people who are working hard, right? They're not willing to open up new drilling for oil and gas in the North Sea. They have capitulated to trade unions. They're now passing laws that make it much easier to go on strike. And what are we going to see? Another strike by doctors. So the Labour Party are not a serious party. They're not willing to do the difficult things that are required to fix our country's problems, which are quite significant. And there's only one party that have the willpower to do that, but also the credible plans to do that, and that's the Conservative Party, which is why I think Kemi wrote that piece in the paper today.
Well, you talked about one of the issues being welfare in this country, welfare spending. I know that I think the Conservative Party, correct me if I'm wrong, want to cut welfare and use that money to go on defence, which I think a lot of people would agree with. In the Telegraph today, Starmer has been accused of watering down benefits checks. So there are too many people on benefits. The checks are too difficult, so we should water down those checks, which will ultimately, I think, just increase the number of people trying to claim. So that doesn't really make sense to me. But the Conservatives today announcing that they're developing proposals to introduce a benefit ration cards to stop criminals blowing benefits on booze and gambling. Just tell us a bit about that. How would that work in practice?
That's right. So at the moment, there are about 500,000 people with criminal convictions who claim benefits. They get that money in cash into their bank account. They can spend it on whatever they like. And we think that is wrong. We think that criminals who receive benefits should not be able to spend that money on gambling, on alcohol and so on, because that is money that has been earned and paid in taxes by very hard-working people. So instead of handing out cash, at a minimum, we should instead provide a payment card which can't be used to withdraw cash, can't be used to transfer money to somebody else, and can't be used to spend money on gambling or on alcohol. That is the minimum we should be doing. Of course, we have wider welfare reform plans, which include, to save a lot of money, which include not allowing foreign citizens to claim any benefits at all. That'll save £7 billion a year. We should also stop people getting signed off sick with mild anxiety or mild depression without even having a face-to-face medical examination. Ending that nonsense will save another £7 to £9 billion a year, and all of that together, with some other savings as well, will enable us to pay down the national debt, cut taxes on business, end stamp duty for your main house. That'll help young people get on the housing ladder, and of course increase defence spending, as you say. We're the only party with a serious plan to cut welfare spending and to cut taxes and help our military at the same time. It's definitely the right thing to do, and there's not a cat's chance in hell that the Labour Party are going to do that.
Well, you and I could agree on that. I think a lot of people would also agree on that. The challenge that people would say to you and to me is that, you know, the Tories had 14 years to do all this kinds of stuff. You know, why are people able to transfer money on benefits in the way in which you say? Why are people able to claim benefits if they're a foreign national that has just come in to the country? That's the challenge that I think the Conservative Party faces, where you have the opportunity to change these things, and it hadn't been done. But now that those plans, as you say, that you're looking into, Andy Burnham, if he becomes the next Prime Minister, there is a suggestion in The Sun today that he could hold a snap general election. If that is the case, and if that does happen, is the Conservative Party ready for a general election?
Well, we're certainly ready to fight at any time. Like I said a minute ago, we're the only party that has credible plans to cut welfare spending, increase defence spending, cut taxes, particularly on people working hard and on businesses, and also control end illegal immigration, end mass low-skilled migration, and dramatically reduce skilled migration as well. We're the only party with credible plans in that area, and I think as soon as that gets put to the test at a general election, whenever that comes, the public will see we're the only party with those credible plans. What worries me deeply is that Andy Burnham and Wes Streeting appear to be planning to take the Labour government even further to the left, you know, even weaker controls on welfare, even higher taxes, even more regulation. All that will do is destroy more jobs. Unemployment's going up already. It'll make it even worse. It'll make energy bills higher. You know, we need to urgently start drilling for new oil and gas in the North Sea to secure our energy supplies. There's no sign of the Labour Party, whoever the leader is, being willing to do any of those things. There's only one party that has plans to do that, and that's the Conservative Party.
Chris Philp there, thank you so much for your time, Shadow Home Secretary. And I have to say, as someone that was at the football yesterday, have I told you? Have I mentioned it? Obviously, lots of police there. They did a brilliant job keeping everybody safe and keeping spirits high. So fair play to the police there yesterday. Paul, just on the back of what Chris Philp was saying there, might have the right plans, might be taking the Conservative Party in the right direction. You know, getting tough on welfare, getting tough on benefit claimants, getting tough on immigration, wanting to use money better to spend on things like defence. The challenge that the party has, though, is that it had 14 years to do all this, didn't it?
Yeah. Kemi Badenoch is becoming more and more impressive in terms of her PMQ appearances, her media appearances, and is talking a fairly good game, which is something that's relatively easy to do from opposition. And the reason that they're in opposition is because they just failed. The reason that Labour won such a shallow landslide is because a lot of people didn't want to vote for Labour, but they knew they could no longer vote for the Conservatives, and they didn't have an alternative. The luxury vote is always the Lib Dem, because you know what, most people who vote for Lib Dems are fairly disengaged with the major issues of the day, because they've worked themselves into a position of relative luxury. That's the way I see it anyway. It certainly I think bears out in a lot of those Lib Dem constituencies. Chris Philp there made some interesting points. He said Labour are not serious. I agree with that. Their policies cannot be serious. You can't have people that have spent a lot of time working in the private sector and stand by their policies, because it just doesn't make sense. That is the sort of embodiment of cognitive dissonance. It just simply cannot. You cannot have, you know, policies about benefits Britain and some of the net zero, and also having worked in the private sector where you're having to battle against those things day in, day out. He also said that Reform are the only one that planned to tackle welfare spending. The Tories are the only ones to tackle welfare spending.
They could be in coalition. You never know. They could be working
in
together.
Coalition.
So you know.
However, and I think that's true. Actually, I think they're the only one who's put any meat on the bones on how they're likely to do that. Reform haven't done that. Restore haven't done that, etc. However, via a different route, they are tackling it, and the sort of another D word, deportations. By enacting the number of deportations the Reform or Restore might enact, you by proxy affect this benefits policy, because there aren't as many people to claim benefits. It doesn't mean there aren't incumbent native people to the UK that aren't claiming benefits, of course. But one of the problem is we're paying for the third world, Charlie.
No, you're absolutely right. And look, the first question we asked Chris, as he was standing outside the BBC, I couldn't help but notice, is why does we asked him about the BBC the claim that Nigel Farage has been banned from appearing on Desert Island Discs, one of the BBC's flagship programmes. Chris Philp there said all politicians should be platformed, and I tend to agree.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you will. That is the question. Why wouldn't you? Why? And so why does the left feel so threatened by reform?
They feel incredibly well. This is the theme of the show, obviously, and I'd love to hear a lot, some more from the listeners and viewers, actually. But it's obvious. They stand for something that Reform are going to destroy, and rightly so. It has failed. It will never work again. It can't work. Multiculturalism has failed, and we need politics and policies and serious people to enact change, and that change is not coming from the left at all.
Why does the left feel so threatened by reform? That's the question we're asking. Also, do you think we're ready for a general election? You know, if Bernie Byrne comes in, or if there's a change of leadership at the top, should there be a general election? Is the Tory party ready for a general election? Are we ready for a general election? Do we want one? I tend to actually think we probably do. But there we go. 0344 499 1000. Get in touch. Text the word TALK to 87222. This is the home of common sense. This is Talk.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley sitting in for the wonderful Alex Phillips this morning here on Talk, taking you all the way through to 1 o'clock. We've had that interview with Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, a Conservative, former Conservative minister as well at the time. A few people are getting in touch about that. Chris Philp, Conservative, sounded pretty convincing, says Amanda. I can see a coalition government with Reform UK working well.
Yes, it could do as well. And it would do, I think. I mean, they're broadly aligned. The Conservatives bring with them, whether people agree with me or not, but I think they do bring with them a certain level of experience that's just not inherent within Reform at the moment. How could it possibly be? They're a very new party, and this is why they're exciting. So the combination of the two. But of course, what we've got now is thick red lines being drawn on the right. You can only be this, you can only be that, and you can't agree with this. And we don't want that because that doesn't go far enough. And I think at the moment, while we go through that infancy period on the right, there's going to be an issue for the right, and they're not going to gain the momentum that they would like to gain, I think, is a bit of an issue.
Absolutely. And we've also had a voice note that has come in regarding Chris Philp. Let's have a listen.
Morning, Charlie. It's Nick from Loughborough. As you sort of alluded to, why should we give any credence to what Chris Philp has just said when they had 14 years to do something about it? Apart from which, they're the party that destroyed this country. We're in the mess we're in now largely because of the pointless and cowardly lockdowns. And they're the party that put net zero on steroids and put it into law, making it incredibly difficult to get out of something, get out of a policy which is the single most destructive policy that this country has seen in generations. Charlie, have a good weekend.
Well, that was from Nick there in Loughborough, and Paul, he's got a point, hasn't he? You know, even if the Conservative Party comes up with all the policies that feel that they've got the tonic for what the country needs, they've had 14 years in power to sort all this out.
You can trace route back. First of all, you can trace roots back from all of our problems now to Tony Blair's Labour government of 97 onwards. And
well, that's Kemi's diagnosis, wasn't it? That's what she was writing about in the Times on Friday.
And from that spawned a generation of Tory MPs in his image, interestingly, because, of course, as we've discovered this week, Tony Blair is not necessarily 100% of the left and doesn't believe what they're doing or lurching to the left is a good idea. But you David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, the list is kind of endless of people that are influenced by that Labour Party and therefore carried on a lot of their policies, of which one was immigration, two was net zero. Net zero, particularly net zero zealotry and climate alarmism, is incredibly dangerous. For our economy above all else. What's the point of having protecting the human race if half of it's dead anyway because we've smashed the economy to bits?
Well, you're absolutely right, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. And let's see what Georgina has to say. She might agree with you. Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina.
Good morning, Charlie, and good morning to your wonderful guest. Well, I've been listening to everything
He's
that
not
you've
bad,
been
is he? He's not bad.
Just let it sit. Just let it sit. It's absolutely fine.
What would you like to say?
Well, I've been listening to what you've been saying about Keir Starmer this morning, and Keir Starmer isn't a leader of the Labour Party. He's the leader of the Socialist Party, and he'll fight tooth and nail to stay in power. Stepping down or resigning is not part of his agenda. He's in number 10 for the long haul. He's quite prepared to allow our country to burn, just so as he can rule over the ashes. He's broken our country, decimated our economy, destabilised our society, and declared war on every patriot within our once great nation. He's got no loyalty to either our country or our people, so much so even his own party members want him out, and with good reason. He has single-handedly made sure that Labour will never get voted into power again, not that I would ever vote Labour. He has put party before country at every turn. He has left our borders open, betrayed our Brexit voters, taxed us to oblivion, and left our country defenceless, allowed over 100,000 unvetted individuals to invade our country, putting every man, woman and child at risk. He's increased our welfare spending to the point that our taxes no longer cover it. And he has taken away our capability to drill for our own oil and gas. We are now a country with no future for our children, with a government that has no plan. It is a total mess, and it's not going to get any better under the present government. And I agree also with every word that your last voicemail caller, Nick, said. The Conservative government, who had 14 years to sort out this mess, did nothing.
Georgina, I can see that you're on the fence there about Starmer. I'm not sure you were strong enough. I don't think you really got the point across about
I think if we clip that and play the national anthem behind it, that would be incredible. You've given this some thought, Georgina, haven't you? What an excellent message.
Well, the thing is, listen, I'm not a young person. I'm in the latest years of my life, and I've had I wouldn't say privilege, to watch the destruction of our country since Margaret Thatcher. And I'm absolutely disgusted with the way Boris Johnson handled our country. I'm absolutely disgusted and appalled at the way this man, Keir Starmer, is handling our country, our economy, our people, our fabulous patriots. We're not even allowed.
Georgina, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Georgina, thank you for that lovely call. We'll be having more calls after the break.
You know, you have to remember that Peter Murrell has been the chief executive of the SNP for nigh on a quarter of a century. He's been with Nicola Sturgeon since 2003. She said that she didn't have access to his personal records. They had separate bank accounts. So we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 3,000 quid, 3 Davic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this is the thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, and they are kids, everyone involved is a kid. I mean, it's just absolutely travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street.
Yeah. So there's now a label for children who skip school. Parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law.
Yes.
And parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
Universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, I mean, this is... We're so used to criticising the police for mistakes. This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley, sitting in for Alex Phillips on Talk, the home of common sense, taking you all the way through to 1 o'clock this afternoon. I'm having a jolly old time with the producers and Dave back behind the glass there where they belong.
What the viewers don't know is they're entirely naked. So incredible. Charlie's doing a great job.
Heavens. People still eating their cornflakes on a Sunday.
Do they cornflakes
choking. I can hear the nation choking on their cornflakes.
I actually like looking at Dave naked. It's
good
something I look forward to every week.
What's happened to my show? This is supposed to be family entertainment. Family viewing.
I forgot you.
And of course, well, horses for courses, different strokes for different folks. And that was the view of Paul Cox, who is joining me, thankfully, for the next 2 hours. We're doing okay so far, I think.
I think we're doing brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. Paul from London has just texted in to say that Paul is doing great, so that's great.
All right. I'll do the text if you don't mind.
I'm just making it. I thought you just made it up.
The official, this is the official board here of notices and messages. We can't have outside traction coming in, I'm afraid. I think yes. Yeah, I think we'll have to move swiftly on. But delighted to have your company.
Thank you.
As always, Paul. And speaking of good company, I'm now delighted also to be joined by Ben Habib, who is the leader of Advance UK. Good morning, Ben.
Morning, Charlie. What a pleasure it is to see you again.
I know.
It's the second time this week, I think, we've had this pleasure.
You're absolutely right. It could be a regular thing. You never know.
It could.
Ben, I just wanted to run through some of the top stories that we're facing in the UK today that's on the front pages of our papers. The first that's just spring to mind is the front page of the Mail. BBC buys row after Desert Island Discs bans Farage. Now, what do you make of this story? I know you and Nigel have had your differences, but is it a problem for the BBC? Is it not okay for them to decide who they want on Desert Island Discs?
Well, funny enough, Charlie, it's got nothing to do with my views of Farage, but when I saw that headline, I thought, well, 99.9% of the population don't make it onto Desert Island Discs. But why is it anything particularly noteworthy that they don't want Nigel Farage on it? I suppose if there's been a discussion, there's been a recommendation internally that he should be on it, and then they've had some collective decision against him because of his political stance, and all of that's revealed somehow into the public domain, then sure, I guess there's a bit of a story there. But if they don't invite him on, I haven't been on. Have you been on, Charlie? Would you like to go on Desert Island Discs?
It's only a matter of time. I'm sure. But Nigel is, whatever the difference is, and I don't want to necessarily go too much into that, but he is the leader of the political party, a party that is polling ahead, it seems, of everyone else at the minute. Every other major political leader has been on. Kemi Badenoch, as I mentioned, was on a couple of weeks ago. And the idea and the reason why in the story it says that he's been banned, supposedly been banned, is because there's this fear, this culture within the BBC, staff fear the threat of reform. So is that, isn't that just unfair that they have excluded him, allegedly, over every other leader? I mean, I'm sure you'll get the invitation soon as well.
I'm waiting. I think I'd make a better interviewee than Farage would. I'd be more fun, I think, on the show. But no, look, I mean, if there's been a discussion and they've decided to ban him because of his political position, then that clearly is the BBC exercising a political view and determining its choices by that view, which would be wrong. Of course, I support that. That is wrong. But if it's simply that he hasn't been on yet and he's looking for another opportunity to have a pop at the BBC, well, many of us haven't been on. It's a bit like that 5 million quid. Are we allowed to talk about the 5 million quid? Farage is accused of having been incentivised by £5 million to stand in the 2024 general election. And he tries to turn it on its head, and suddenly it's, well, my phone was hacked by the Russians. And he becomes the victim. It's a bit like that with Desert Island Discs. I haven't been on Desert Island Discs, so somehow I'm a victim. Well, move on.
Well, you talk about. Well, let's move on. You talk about 5 million quid, from 5 million to 5 billion quid that the government was unable to save as it attempted to in welfare savings. This is the Labour government. Its backbenchers didn't want to vote that through, so we're now seeing more spent on our welfare than what we have in terms of income. Telegraph today says that Starmer wants to water down benefit checks even more. So the process is far too complicated. Yeah. There are far too many people claiming welfare. It's hard to process them, so we'll water down those checks. If you ask me, that's just going to make more people go and claim, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And just to put that 5 billion into context, it represented 1.6% of the annual spend on welfare. That's all they were looking to cut. And they had such pushback from their backbenchers that they ended up spending more money at the end of that debate than they had anticipated in the first, their anticipated cut. They ended up spending more money. And this country is economically going to hell in a handcart with the burden of our welfare. It's completely out of control. £350 billion a year, 35% of our budget, much more than the NHS, goes on pensions, unemployment, universal credit and benefits for people who are unemployed. This has to stop. We've got 4 million people on universal credit who aren't even looking for a job. They do not show up in the unemployment figures because the unemployment figures only measure those who are actually looking for a job. So they keep saying unemployment's around 5%. Actually, those who are not working are much, much bigger than that. And part of cutting taxes, part of bringing the private sector back onto its feet, enabling the working and middle classes to be back on their feet, is, I'm afraid, some very tough medicine that needs to be delivered to the welfare side of our balance sheet. That has to be slashed dramatically. There needs to be some very tough love in the United Kingdom to get the UK working again.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with that. And to get people working again, they need to get employed. And so just sticking with the theme of the economy, because on the front page of the Telegraph, you've got Wes Streeting suggesting that actually national insurance contributions should come down, that they shouldn't have gone up under the last budget when he was even a serving cabinet minister. You've also got Jeremy Hunt, the former Tory Chancellor, saying that the triple lock should be reviewed. Are these two measures that you agree with? Is that something that the government should be exploring? Should we scrap the triple lock?
Well, I'll come to the triple lock in a second, but can I make a broader point? The more friction you put in an economy, the more regulation you put into it, the more taxation you put into an economy, the less economic activity you have. It's a matter of fact. Every regulation means companies have to comply with it. There's less economic activity. You raise taxes, there's less economic activity. It's just a fact. If you reduce taxes, you get more economic activity. So I wholeheartedly agree with removing the increase in national insurance that the Labour Party imposed. In fact, what we've got to do is cut taxes right across the board. And people may jump up and down in horror saying, well, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. Actually, we can't afford not to cut taxes because we've taken the private sector onto its knees. And as I say, the mirror side of cutting taxes has to be a reduction in welfare. But when we talk about the triple lock, that's a really emotive thing. But what people don't understand is that even before we get to the triple lock, there are a whole load of people getting pensions who simply should not be getting them. The rule used to be that if you worked, you paid your national insurance contribution, and at the end of your time in work, you got a pension because you paid into the NIC pot. Now, actually, people who are on benefits have a notional contribution made on their behalf to NIC, so that when people on benefits retire, they also get a pension. And it's not restricted just to British citizens. Any foreigner who's been in this country, we now know we've got 1.5 billion foreigners on benefits in this country. When they retire, when they become, they're already retired, when they get to retirement age, they will get a pension on the country. Our whole welfare system is out of control. So before we even get to the triple lock, we've got to cut back the way pensions are delivered.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree with that. But I mean, I think, what worries politicians, I suppose, if they tamper with the triple lock, if they change it in a particular way, that drives a lot of the electorate that we have in this country, in an ageing population, a growing ageing population. Yeah. People won't vote for it.
Well, I completely agree, Charlie. And I think one of the great benefits of being a wealthy nation is that you can make a contract with the people, like we used to have when I was younger, that if you work during your life and you contribute to the government, we will look after you when you get older. But what we've done is drive our economy into the ground over manifold policies have done that. Essentially, rabid socialism is what we practice. And we've driven our economy into the ground, and we are now unable to look after our elderly and indeed our vulnerable. Our welfare state is out of control, but it's not actually looking after those who need it. And when you are a genuine pensioner, when you've worked all your life, when you've paid into the pot of this country, you've been an honest, good citizen, the state should then be there for you. But we can't afford it anymore because of all the other stupid policies we've been practicing. And so when we talk about pensions, actually, there's a hell of a lot else we need to address before we get there.
Let's move on from pensions to migration. You talked about a lot of people that are in the country able to claim benefits. There's a question about whether they should be able to claim benefits if they've come from abroad before making any kind of contribution. But one of the things that some people have to do when they come into the country is take part in a language test. And there is a story today that the language test system, that some people might think is quite lenient anyway, is moving from the current test that is in place to one where you can just seemingly have a few lessons on Duolingo. For those that aren't familiar, Duolingo is an app, sort of a language app that supposedly helps you learn a new language. I did try it once or twice myself. I think unless you really, take up the daily classes that they suggest that you do, you learn block by block. But it's not conducive to actually having, I think, the adequate level, the appropriate level of a language that you should have in this country, which is obviously English. What's your views about that? Are we just making it easier for people to come into the country to claim, to do these tests? Are we making it easier for migrants as they come into the UK?
Well, we are definitely making it easier for migrants. For some reason, a succession of governments, well, I can tell you the reasons if you've got hours to spare, but for reasons which I think are flawed, successive governments have been throwing open our doors to foreigners, welcoming them into the country and making their time in this country more pleasurable for them than they are for the citizenry of this country. And actually, one of the hugely damaging things we've done is practice multiculturalism, which is not the lots of different cultures coming together, melding together, forming some kind of new homogenous culture which is better than what went before it. It's lots of different cultures existing in silos, and this country effectively having to take a backseat with its own culture in the promotion, protection, and celebration of these foreign cultures. And what we should have been doing was practicing assimilation, not even integration. People talk about integration. No, we had to go a step further. We had to assimilate people into this country. So we had a settled culture. So people identified with each other. They identified with the country. They could communicate with each other. And of course, at the heart of that, Charlie, is the ability to communicate in a language that we all understand. If you now go to Whitechapel, you find all sorts of languages in the tube station. You probably still do have English, but it's only one of a number of languages that are in the tube station. And this is symptomatic of a breakdown in the United Kingdom's culture. And actually, we should be going more on the front foot with making sure people not just learn our culture, but they learn our history, they learn about our Christian roots, they learn about our empire, they're taught about our national heroes, so they don't want to tear down statues every 5 seconds, that they understand what it is to be British. And part of British, by the way, coming back to where we started this discussion, is having aspiration, is having to work hard, understanding your contract with the state, working hard, being rewarded for your work if you do that. That was absolutely instilled in my generation, but we've lost that. All these cultural attributes that made us such a strong nation, including our language, need to be forcefully re-engaged with.
Ben, very comprehensive there, very thoughtful. A lot of people will agree with everything that you've just said there. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. That was Ben Habib there, leader of Advanced UK, joining me. Still in the studio, Paul Cox. What did you make of that conversation with Ben a second ago? All from migrants to welfare to obviously just the state of the country and how actually people should feel it is to be British if they're making a contribution.
Yeah, Ben has a tremendously good grip of the zeitgeist. I always, whenever I listen to his interviews and conversations, he is tuned in to what the major concerns are across Great Britain today, and as a result, it makes for very good listening, particularly for the talk viewers and listeners out there. I thought that the conversation with regards to welfare, that's going to be a major battle line in the next general election, whether that's in a month or two's time, in 6 months' time, or a year's time, or whatever. That's going to be, something that people are very interested in. But also very interestingly is the triple lock, because let's not hide from the fact that a lot of people that will vote for right-wing parties will be older. They'll be. I'm in my mid-40s. They're likely to be my age and above.
You're not, are you?
I am, absolutely. Yeah, I know. It's tremendous, isn't it? I know you were thinking mid-60s, but
yes.
But so it's going to be a vote winner, and perhaps a vote decider. But you and I were talking about this off air, because this is what we talk about when we're off air as well. And I said that there'll be enough people. There'll be enough policies on the right that will, irrespective of whether the triple lock goes or not, will entice people in, because there will be no policy on the left for older people whatsoever. Because, unfortunately for the left, the older people in this country are able to make a comparison between how it was and how it is, whereas many of the young people can't. And, the same applies to them. Let's not forget that there are young people that just can't get on in this world because of an absolute lack of ambition from all of our governments. And they will want change, and they think a change needs to be enacted from the left because of their position in life. But really, the only change is ever going to come from the right, because we have had the left since the war, since World War II I'm talking about. So I think it's a fascinating conversation with Ben. I think he has a very good grip of what's going on. I don't know what role Ben plays going forward, because Advance, from my position, aren't in the race in the same way that Reform, Restore and the Tories are. But I think people would be remiss to dismiss him in any way.
No, I think it was a very thoughtful conversation. And look, in order to get change, well, we might have to have a general election, some might say. Are we ready for a general election? What do people think? 0344 499 1000. Do you want change? Do you want an election? Do you want to get Starmer out and, well, whoever replaces him? Do you want to get the Labour government out? Who knows? We're also asking the question, why does the left, I should say, feel so threatened by reform? That's on the back of the front page of the Mail this morning. The BBC bias row after Desert Island Discs has allegedly banned Nigel Farage from appearing. That's 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk to 87222. We'll get all your calls and texts after this break. This is Talk.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning and welcome back to Talk with me, Charlie Rowley, sitting in for the wonderful Alex Phillips all the way through to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm delighted to be joined through that period with the lovely Paul Cox. I can't think of anything else to say about you. Lovely, legendary.
He's all the L's.
Let loose.
Lardy.
We've just got some texts that have come in. Keep them coming in, folks. I'm delighted to have your company this morning. Morning, Charlie and Paul. I don't know about Nigel Farage being banned by the BBC, but if we have to suffer another 3 years of this Labour government, this country of ours will become a desert island. General election next year. Reform will be ready. The BBC can keep the desert island disc seat warm in the meantime. That's from Mark in Stratford. Obviously thinks Reform will go and win that general election. I mean, they're ahead in the polls, but it's a long way off. But if there is a snap general election, who knows? Anything can change between now and then. Robert says, Charlie, it makes me wonder at the sheer self-delusion of the Conservative Party when they play down Reform. The Conservative One Nation MPs and Lib Dems in disguise. The Conservatives began the rot we find ourselves in now. I strongly believe there will be a massive Reform victory which will leave the rump Conservatives completely irrelevant. That's from Robert in Chipping Barnet. Keep those calls and texts coming in. We've got loads of them on the dashboard. It's lit up. It's like a disco in here. But we've got a couple of voice notes. Let's go through these. Hev.
Good morning, Charlie. It's Hev from Kent. I'm just sitting here listening to Phelps and, oh, my God, boring, as Nigel would say. Just everything he's coming out with it. He's trying to sound all very positive and this is our idea and this is what we've come up with. What a load of shoemakers. Just all it is just it's just copying Reform, isn't it? It's just copying everybody else. It's everything he said is nothing that I haven't already heard. It's just such a load of shoemakers.
That's the problem, isn't it? When you've got sort of, the Conservatives trying to rediscover its roots, trying to win back or win over people like Hev, but they are sort of, not in with Reform, obviously, but there is clearly more crossover with the Conservatives and Reform than the Conservatives and the Labour Party, for example, or the Lib Dems, or the Greens, and the same for Reform. So people, are going to dismiss the Tory Party, A, because of that 14 years in government previously, but Chris was saying all the right things there, according to Hev, but she wasn't buying it.
No, Hev's not buying it because she's aware of what's gone before. There's a couple of things to remember here. This crossover and the differences between Tories and Labour, people aren't yet convinced that there are. The rhetoric coming from Badenoch's Tory party is one that is different to Labour, which is probably really the first time that's happened in a very long time. The solutions to the problem are all figured out by Nigel Farage to some degree. At least he's come up with a change, or the right has come up with a change, which seems to be largely represented by Reform and Nigel Farage. And because that's the case, because those solutions have come from there, the Tories have no choice but to parrot that, because those are the solutions. Those are the routes that we need to take. So what the Tories are saying, I think, under Chris Philp in that particular interview, is you can trust us because we're experienced. Whereas actually most people will say, we don't trust you, and it's because of our experience of you that we won't trust you. So it's going to be very difficult for the Tories. Hev's absolutely right. I think people are going to vote with their feet, and those that would traditionally have voted Tory and voted from the centre right of Labour will go to Reform and other parties.
Well, we've just been delivered 2 lovely cups of tea.
We have.
Thank you very much, team. And so we'll run through. We've got a couple of more voice notes to get through. Let's get through these as we sip our tea. We've got 2 Robs and a Simon. Let's go for Rob number 1.
Good morning, Charlie. There's only one party in this country at the moment that will save us, and that is Reform. Forget Restore, they're not going to win. Forget the Tories, they're not going to win. People have had enough. We had 14 years of the Tories, and they have destroyed this country too. This Labour government now, they're on steroids with their destruction. Everything they're doing is just making this country an awful place to live. People have had enough. And you know what? You can put down reform all you like, and Nigel Farage, but believe me, he is going to win the next general election, and he will not need help from the Tories, I can assure you. Thank you. This is Rob from London.
I mean, very briefly on that one, Paul, but it seems to me, are we in this sort of Donald Trump 2016 territory where, you know, you can say the most awful thing, which he did, which is sort of, you know, grabbing a woman inappropriately, but yet go on to still become elected president of the United States because people are just at their wits' end. They feel that, you know, okay, the man's got faults, but he is the one to go and lead the US in the way in which that it needs to be sort of dragged into that direction on the back of, you know, of where it had been in the past. Are we at that stage where people that are fans of Nigel, they know he's been around a long time, you know, maybe he's a smoker, a drinker, a good time kind of guy, but they're prepared to overlook everything else, anything that people throw at Nigel. They think, no, he is the man to change this country for the better. So ban him from the BBC, you bring up all the dirt or anything that you want to throw at him, it doesn't matter. People have made up their minds.
A couple of things. I don't think Nigel Farage has ever said anything quite as interesting as Donald Trump said in that moment. There's no proof that there's no proof at all that he was racist as a 14-year-old boy, for instance, which people often, you know, there isn't, simply just because there's a cohort, a cadre of his school colleagues that say he was such. That doesn't prove anything. You can say anything about anyone. Also, the people that are telling us what to say and think are the people that have got us into this mess in the first place. So when you hear from the people who have got us into this mess, oh, you know, you can't have someone like Nigel in charge because he's racist or he smokes and he drinks. And do you know what he said in 1972? The people aren't buying that anymore. I always talk about the convention. It's dead. Yes. 100 years of convention, dead. They killed it. See you later. Bye. So whatever phoenix comes from that ashes is going to be accepted. And one of the things about Nigel Farage, whether he's the common man or not, and there's arguably he's not because he's a man who has made himself relatively wealthy and he went to private schools growing up. That doesn't make him bad, by the way, and that doesn't make him not in tune with the working person. This is a man who goes to pubs. This is where you find the working person, in pubs, in working men's clubs. So I think it doesn't matter what Nigel Farage said on those things because people's tastes have changed. They're like, do you know what, let's have some normality, because the people who stick to politically correct language have failed us.
Yes, no, he does like a pub, as do I. But I have to tell you, I was not in one last night, as the accusations that were flying my way from the gallery earlier on. I am absolutely riddled with hay fever, I'm afraid. So if anyone's actually got tips on how to tackle hay fever at a time like this, please let me know. I wish I was at a pub last night. I would have been commiserating, but that would have ended in tears. And let's go to Rob, number 2.
Good morning, Charlie. It's Rob here in Starbridge, mate. You know why the left are so scared of reform, don't you, mate? Because when they get into power, when we win the election, we're going to expose them for all the sleaze, all the corruption, all the underhand dealings they've done for the last, 50 years. It's all going to be exposed, mate. All that sleaze, all that corruption they've hid and, you know, passed it on to another party. Because we know it goes on. You've only got to have a look at the Andrew business, what's going on at the moment, and Mandelson. Them just dirty and corrupt, mate. Yeah, that's why the left don't want it in there, because it's going to expose them and they're going to be shown for what they are. Charlatans and scumbags, the lot of them. Conservative, Labour, Liberal Democrats. You probably won't play this, but I don't care. It's the truth. Corruption is rife and reform will put it out there to the people.
Rob, this is the home of free speech and common sense, I believe. So you are entitled to your view. And of course, we will play as much as we possibly can from any voice note that comes in, including calls and texts. I mean, I think what Rob was getting at that, Paul, is that, I mean, it was a word that my former boss, Michael Gove, once described as the blob. So, you know, it's the civil service, it's parts of the BBC, it's our institutions that have been taken over by this left-wing ideology that has infiltrated itself. And that's what then produces this tick-boxing exercise of diversity and equality and making sure, actually, we've got to have transgender toilets available for everybody. You know, it's that kind of... we must have them. You know, when you're talking about a minority, a very, very small minority of people that have to shout the loudest and therefore, you know, tear up our way of life that is just common sense. So I think that's what Rob was getting at there, and that's why, you know, the left are, and these institutions are worried about reform, because I think they seem to be, and the polls are reflecting this, seem to be talking the most common sense and most how do I put it, most appropriately placed to come in on the back of the Tories getting kicked out after the last 14 years to be able to tear up the status quo.
Yeah, and it's the status quo that's going to be the last to go, unfortunately, because whether Labour leave government or not, the people that are largely running the country are the civil service. And there's a good reason for that, because, you know, governments come and go, prime ministers come and go. Unfortunately, they're no longer neutral, or I don't know when they were last neutral. It doesn't feel like they've been neutral in most of my adult lifetime. And because of that, they're already preparing for a reform, a potential reform government, or at least a right-wing government, because and they're going to do all they can within their power to stop change. Make no doubt about it. Right now, there are people working dark arts within the blob, within the House of Lords, left-leaning Lords, for instance. All hereditary Lords are gone now, so you've got plenty of Labour, Lib Dem Lords in there that are not going to pass the legislation. It's going to bounce back between the two houses, and the blob themselves are just going to say, you can't do it, you won't do it, end of chat. So there will have to be a meteoric revolution within our political system in order to act any real change. And I think that people understand that, but I don't think that they believe, or they are aware just yet of how difficult that is likely to be. These people are going to hang on. They don't, it's not that they don't like the right. They believe that everything they believe in is gospel to their religion. So they are not going to change. So whoever comes in needs to be radical.
Well, we'll be putting this to the test after a short break with Alex Wilson, who is a from London Assembly member. That's coming up. Keep all your calls and texts coming in. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning and welcome back. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips here on Talk all the way through to 1 o'clock, and I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Cox, still with us. Still here.
The prefixes have slowly diminished, and now it's just my name.
Yes.
Thank you, though, Charlie.
No worries. No, you're welcome. You're welcome. So pleased to have you this morning, because it's we've got a lot to get through. We've got so many stories kicking around, lots of politics, lots of problems in the country. And you were just talking about it a second ago. You know, it is going to be a seismic task for anybody to get a grips with what's going on in our country, to get us in the direction that we need to be going in.
It is, and what as a result of that change, should that change be able, and it will be a revolution, by the way. I don't mean that in a violent sense. I just mean in a political revolution will have to take place, and people will very much struggle to come to terms with it. If we think that we are disorientated, discombobulated by this Labour government right now, I don't think it's anything by comparison to what will have to take place in order for a right-wing government to be able to deliver the change that's required. So people are going to have to strap in, because of course the whole of the country isn't voting for change. A significant proportion of the country are voting for the status quo, which for me is absolutely bonkers, but hey, that's a democracy and they're entitled to think that way. So we have to be able to have a stomach for change. Right now we've become like almost overly tolerant. So the minute somebody, it's like a small child, as soon as they cry, oh, you give them the sweets you've told them they're not allowed to have. Whereas, and this is the same for the Labour Party, but when I'm talking about them being a weather vane earlier, they just go to the squeakiest wheel. Oh, that person over there's crying, we need to sort that out. Oh, that person over there's crying. There's no tough love. There's no, I'm sorry, we're going to have to take a hatchet to the welfare bill because we can't afford it. No, we're just going to take 5% off, which is going to be covered up in other ways. We're going to make no change, actually. So I'm afraid. Can you imagine deportations? And there are this is a word you and I could not have said on national radio and television, maybe even 2 or 3 years ago, without coming across as completely out of touch with the zeitgeist. But it's true. There are plenty of people deserving of deportation in this country, and we see instant after instant after instant throughout the criminal justice system every week. So massive change has to take place in order for us to revert back to normality, and I think it's going to be extraordinary to commentate on, but extraordinary to be involved in.
Well, keeps us all in a job, I suppose.
It certainly does.
Even if we are despairing most days, it's not healthy for us. But someone else who might be able to help us and talk us through these tough times and tell us what could happen in the years or even months ahead if there is an early general election, praise be, is now Alex Wilson, Reform London Assembly member, joins me now on this wonderful Sunday morning still. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Charlie. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Let's talk through some of the news stories of the day. Front page of the Mail, if I can. This has been the conversation that we've been having this morning. Why does the left feel so threatened by reform? This is on the back of that Mail story, where it's been reported that the BBC have banned Nigel Farage from appearing on one of its flagship programmes, Desert Island Discs. What do you make of that?
Well, it's a real shame. I mean, we have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the BBC. There's some content that it produces that is great, and Desert Island Discs is one of those programmes. I enjoy listening to it. You often have very interesting guests, and you get to hear about the music that shaped their lives, and it's a real shame that Nigel's not going to get that opportunity, because it seems as if Radio 4, the producers, whoever, decided that Nigel's too much to them and they don't have him on the show, which is, as I say, a real shame.
And do you think that there is a genuine or general fear of reform? You know, we were asking the question to listeners this morning, why does the left feel so threatened by reform? You know, Paul and I were just talking about what was deemed previously the blob. So you take the civil service, you take our great British institutions, you take schools now, public sector workers, the list goes on. The judiciary. Is there this visceral hatred of reform, or anyone on the right, from these institutions where they've been infiltrated by the left, and they feel as though that reform are going to come in and tear it all up?
Absolutely, there's a huge amount of truth in that. If you look at the teaching unions already been campaigning against the possibility of a reform government, you've seen the civil service threatening to go on strike if the reform government is in, or certainly threatening to obstruct the will of the democratically elected government as we would be. Now, it's terrible. The job of the civil service is to implement, or advise, yes, but then implement the policy decisions that the government has set. And, we saw during the last government how impossible it was for the Conservatives to get things like the Rwanda scheme off the ground because too many officials were looking for excuses not to implement it. And it looks as if they're threatening to do the same if we're in the fortunate position of having the general election. It's simply not good enough. We need to have a system where you can appoint, certainly at the top of each department, political appointees, so you can actually set that tone, that leadership from the top of each department, and make sure that the government is able to get its will implemented, because ultimately that's what the country expects. People elect a government, whether it's a left government, a right-wing government, a centrist government, whatever, the public expect them to be able to implement the programme, and the officials get on board or get out of the way.
Well, you're absolutely right. People expect their politicians to deliver for them. And as an Assembly member in London, I just want to take you through a story that is in the Daily Mail. A celebrity antiques dealer left blooded in 2 armed robberies. He's now decided to close his store, blaming Sadiq Khan's scandalous, as he quotes, there's the failure to tackle violent crime in London. I mean, you represent London. You must hear of these stories all the time, whether it's knife crime, whether it's shoplifting, whether it's phone snatching, and all the theft that takes place in London. London's got worse, hasn't it, under Sadiq Khan? What can be done, A, to reverse that crime in London, but also more broadly across the country?
But absolutely, London's got much worse under Sadiq Khan. A range of measures, housing, transport, with the most congested city in Europe. But obviously, the one that affects most people on a daily basis is that crime and that perception, fear of crime, and whether it's that we're the mobile phone theft spot of Western Europe, or it's the fact there's a rape reported every hour, or whether it's a 2/3 increase in knife crime since Sadiq became mayor, or this increase, the pattern of these sort of smash and grab raids on jewellers. And it's no surprise, well, it's very sad, but it's no surprise that people are shutting up shop, because if you can't feel that it's safe to run your business, to trade in London, then you'll take your business elsewhere. And that is a terrible, terrible thing for London's economy, for London's tourism, culture, everything that makes our city great. It does feel like we're kind of on the precipice now, and a lot of it is the decisions that Sadiq is making. The fact that in the last 3 years the use of stop and search has halved on his watch. He's closing police station front counters. He promised at the last election, which was only 2 years ago, that there would be a 24/7 police station front counter open in every borough. That's not happening. 2 now, one in Westminster, one in Lewisham. Everywhere they're either closing or reduced hours. So he's failing on policing, and it's ordinary Londoners and people trying to get about their daily business or run their businesses. They're the ones that are paying the price, and it's a real tragedy for everyone.
I mean, over the last week or so, actually, we've talked about a number of stories that involve the judiciary or our policing. So only yesterday we were talking about the tragic story of Henry Novak, who was an 18-year-old boy that was attacked. But when the police arrived in Hampshire, the perpetrator of the stabbing of young Henry said that he was actually the victim of a hate crime, a racist abuse. And the police, therefore, continued to pursue Henry. They arrested him, even though he'd been stabbed, and he died of his injuries. Now, Hampshire Constabulary had to issue the most grovelling apology yesterday. That is one case where, because of someone of an ethnic minority background, appears to have been believed over someone that was white. That is an appalling an offence in itself, in my view. The police have had to apologise for that. We've also seen over the last week the judiciary fail to, I think, convict the 2 Manchester brothers at Manchester Airport where they attacked police officers. We've also seen judges let young boys who've gone on to rape young women using filming it, using a knife as a weapon, get off scot-free because, they demonstrated good behaviour because they had a low IQ. These people all seem to me to be of a liberal, lefty, loony culture where they don't want to actually focus on the real problem that is in front of them. And, we should be treating everybody equally. It doesn't matter if you're your skin, but we seem to be in a situation now where the police and our judiciary and the authorities are not responding accordingly.
Yeah, you've listed a whole set of examples there. Just in the last week alone, this very clear kind of perception and feeling of 2-tier policing to judiciary, and it's native Brits that are poor end of it, and it's just not good enough. I mean, poor Henry being stabbed, and the police not taking that seriously. I'm usually the first person to defend the actions of frontline officers who put their own lives at risk doing the job. But that case, clearly, they whether it's because of the training they've been given, the sense of priorities that comes from the leadership of a particular constabulary, means that they weren't able to do what any one exercise in common sense would be: to take the word of the guy that's been stabbed and make sure that he's all right. Do that first before worrying about any other nonsense. But the judiciary, we saw probably the most outrageous aspect of the Manchester case is that that judge referred Nigel Farage to the Attorney General because commenting on the case and potentially prejudicing it. It's absolute nonsense. We live in a two-tier system. We see it every day, and politicians should be able to comment on that. And the last person who needs to be judging Nigel on that is Lord Hermer, who let's remember, he's made a
Thank you so much, Reform Assembly Member for London. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Just got some breaking news to read out here. This is on the back of the Champions League final yesterday that took place in Budapest. A total of 219 people have been injured in clashes between football fans and police across France following the victory of Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League final against Arsenal. As I just said, 8 were in a serious condition. Interior Minister Laurent Nunez said thousands of officers had been deployed to curb unrest that disrupted bus, train and rail services in the capital in Paris. 57 of them were injured. Nunez also said that 780 people had been arrested over the violence, with more than 450 people in custody. One person has been found dead after an accident on Paris's Ring Road, which rioters tried to block overnight. Some 6,000 police have been mobilised for Sunday's victory parade at the site of the iconic Eiffel Tower. The Interior Minister said that security forces would be firm in their response. He said, "We're a great country for maintaining public order. We allow freedom of assembly, but not excesses." So 218 people have been injured in clashes in Paris. So these are fans that were obviously celebrating in their home country. And, everybody should be celebrating if you win the Champions League, whoever you are, whatever your country, whatever team you support. But when it spills into violence, it just leaves a bit of a nasty taste, doesn't it?
We should remind our viewers and listeners that might not be aware, this is the team that won in the country that won. Imagine if they'd lost. Look, from my understanding of this, particularly with political and football culture in Paris in particular, is there is an underclass of people that use this as an opportunity to attack the police and to attack authority, and maybe that's what's happened here. But those numbers are astounding. 219, 8 serious, 1 death. I don't know if that was entirely associated with the football. This is a team that won the Champions League last night. There was nothing contentious about it. It was just, it was a pretty straightforward game with penalties. I think a group of people have taken to the streets and taken advantage of that to try and battle with the police. And the idea that their Interior Minister thinks that France has got a great record of maintaining public safety, it, for me, is a nonsense. I mean, if it's ever going to clash anywhere, if we're ever going to see these scenes, it's on the streets of Paris. It always is. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. These figures are substantial. It has to be said. 219 people injured, 780 arrested, 450 of which are in custody, 6,000 police mobilised to try and curb some of the scenes that we're seeing in Paris. Let's go to a quick break. Drop me a call on all of those stories and the conversation that we're having today. 0344 499 1000. More after this.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. I was just being told I was being counted in. There you are. To the news, I see. Oh, that's coming up on the hour. Good to know I've got the best team around, haven't I, supporting me this afternoon. Speaking of the best team, in with the studio is Paul Cox.
Here I am.
There you are. See, promoted you again. But it's not just me. I'll just read out a couple of these texts if I can, because we've got Glyn that says, "Good morning, Charlie. May I just say, in dark times, it's a welcome break to see Paul Cox and yourself on the box." That's old school speak for television, I'm told. I mean, I know I look incredibly young, because I am. So I need that little help every now and again. Thank you so much for that. Charlie, great show this morning, but I've been recovering for the last hour after hearing that you could be Butch. Well, I can be. I'll be reading out the World Cup competition, I think, at some point throughout the day. Would you like me to do that, folks? I'm looking at them behind the glass. Not now, we'll do it later on. No, I haven't got it in front of me now, but we'll do it later on. Yeah. They're looking forward to it, I can tell. It brings people together. So thank you very much for that text there. We'll give to one more that I saw up here from Kath. Love your presenting style, Charlie. Well, thank you very much, Kath. Sorry about the hay fever, but it does make you sound even sexier than usual.
Even sexier.
Even sexier, there you are. She goes on to say, great partnership with Paul, of course. Catherine, an old bird, she says, ancient enough to be your mother. Kath from Cardiff. They're loving us this morning.
They are loving us, but they're people of great taste. They're not made of wood, are they?
What was that, Dave? Sorry, whispering in my ear again. I'm not butcher, even if I am sexier. Do you not think I'm butch at all? What's so funny about that? I could be. You never know. I will try for that. I've been told for the next... Well, luckily, we've only got 5. So they told me to try for the next 10 minutes. But anyway. Chrissy from Spain. She's loving the show, Charlie. I was due to watch the French Open. So you are very honoured. By the way, it's very hot here. Any tips for keeping cool? Oh, so Chrissy was supposed to be watching the French Open, but she's watching us instead. I mean, you know, why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Any tips for keeping cool, Paul?
No, just mainly wander around in your pants is my solution.
Well, there you go, Chrissy. A bit more of a serious one from Andy. He says, hi, Charlie. All these people moaning about Khan and not bothering to go out and vote is getting tedious. Go out and vote and get this charlatan out. I think that could be more of a broad text. You know, you've got to vote to get, you know, a democracy in this country. Sure. I know that there was a low turnout at the last general election. That's why Labour came in on what I call this loveless landslide. So, you know, you've got, you know, the text is absolutely right. If you want change in this country, you've got to go out and vote.
I mean, obviously, Khan is the mayor of London. I think if more people voted in London, you get more calm. I think he speaks. He's a very cynical politician, is Sadiq Khan. He creates an environment in which he is the only solution. Right? It's great work as a politician, but what he does is he leans into every minority issue. It's not. He's doing nothing to make London better. He's doing everything to appease the people that many of us fear are making London worse. So I think the more people go out and vote in London, and we're likely to get more Khan. I don't think they see it as a problem whatsoever.
Well, from London to Cornwall, we're going to take a call now from Carol. Carol, thank you for joining us this morning.
Okay, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to refer really to the Conservative guy, the Conservative MP you had on.
Oh yes, Chris Philp, who's the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp.
That's right. It did make me grizzle a little.
Oh.
I mean, the Conservatives are a busted flush, and they just don't get it, because we just don't believe them anymore. I mean, Kemi Badenoch can say whatever she likes, and what she wants to do, but she's assuming that we don't understand that her backbenchers should be in the Liberal Democrats. They're not true Conservatives. So she can say whatever she likes. And I know that she says they have to agree to her regime before they're going to be allowed to stand at the next election. But they can do that. And then when the vote comes, they can vote against her. And that's what I believe they will do, because you can't trust people who consistently lie to you.
Carol, can I just ask you, whereabouts in Cornwall are you calling from? This is going to be a test of my knowledge, but also my political
I'm about 5 miles from Truro.
So Truro, if I'm not mistaken, has had a Conservative MP for it's been a Conservative seat for a very long time. It did go Labour at one point, didn't it?
It did. I mean, I'm in the Camborne-Redruth section of the MPs, and we did have a really good Conservative MP for years, but now we've got a Labour one.
Yeah.
And he's, I've listened to him, and I think to myself, oh, forget it.
So,
I mean, I have been a Conservative voter all my life, and I'm an old woman. But I would never vote for them again. They've just lied consistently, and I just do not believe them anymore. And you can't trust people who lie to you.
So you wouldn't? Well, you're absolutely right, and nor should you. But it just is a point of principle in life, I think, more often than not. But if you're not going to vote Conservative again, he's a lifelong Tory voter, you said in the past, you've now got a Labour MP, assuming you said you weren't going to vote Labour, who would you vote for then if there was a general election tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to vote Reform. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm completely 100% happy about that, but they're the least bad option.
Right.
So that's what I do. I tend to vote for the people who are going to harm me the least.
Well, that, again, I think could be applied to everywhere. Carol, thank you so much for that call. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Who would you vote for if there was a general election tomorrow? Should there be an election if Starmer does what should be the inevitable thing and go? What do you think about the left in this country? Why do they fear reform? We're hearing on the back of the BBC's allegedly banning Nigel Farage taking part in Desert Island Discs. Do we just have this left-wing blob in our country that has infiltrated all of aspects of our life that we just can't seem to get rid of? Does it really require someone to come in and tear things up? 0344 499 1000. Get in touch. We'll be going through all your calls and texts after this break. This is Charlie Rowley. This is the home of common sense. This is Talk.
You know, you have to remember that Peter Murrell has been the chief executive of the SNP for nigh on a quarter of a century. He's been with Nicola Sturgeon since 2003. She said that she didn't have access to his personal records. They had separate bank accounts. So we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 2,000 quid, 3 Davic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this is the thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, and they are kids, everyone involved is a kid. I mean, it's just absolute travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street. Yeah.
So there's now a label for children who skip school. Parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law. You know,
Yes.
and parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, you know, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e., prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, you know. Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, you know. I mean, this is...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon to you now. It is as we tiptoe over into the afternoon. And for the remainder of this hour, I'll be sitting in for Alex Phillips, joined by the wonderful Paul Cox, comedian and friend of the show, who joins me now. Are you okay, Paul?
I'm very good.
You're bearing up.
This is, I mean, of course I'm bearing up. This is absolutely wonderful, Charlie. You are doing a great job, sir.
Oh, well, that's very kind, very kind. Well, Donna, who's just texted, says, "Hi, Charlie. Don't you dare start to sound butch. You have a lovely voice and it shouldn't be tampered with. Enjoying the show and hope to see you doing more shows in the future." Thank you very much, Donna. Well, I will be reading out the World Cup competition very shortly, but I want to hear from you, the great listeners of Talk. Drop us a line, 0344 499 1000. I know we've had hundreds of calls that we will be coming back to you and trying to get you on in this last hour. But if you can't call, send a text with the word talk to 87222 or send a message on X. Just say the word @talktv, followed by your message. We will endeavour to read as many out as we possibly can. We're talking about the BBC ban Nigel Farage from appearing on Radio 4's Desert Island Discs. That's the claim that's been made, that he has been banned. Is that right? The question we're asking, why does the left feel so threatened by reform? Do we have this blob in our country that is just too far to the left, that's infiltrated all of our public sector bodies, our judiciary, the policing? Can we tear it up? That's what we're talking about. That's the main story, though, today. The BBC has been hit by new allegations of bias following claims Nigel Farage has been banned from Desert Island Discs. We've been talking about the Prime Minister as Keir Starmer waters down benefits checks. So, you know, there are too many people that have claimed. There are too many people in the backlog of our benefit system. So let's water down that process, which in my view just invites even more people to claim. I don't know how that works. That is a recipe for disaster, in my view, to water it down. But there we go. Speaking of the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer plans to cling on to power for 6 months as Labour is accused of tumbling into chaos and civil war. I do love that. That is the headline, that they are accused of tumbling into chaos and civil war. I think you'll find they're already Andy Burnham is considering holding a snap general election if he becomes PM. The Sun on Sunday can reveal, well, he's got to get into becoming an MP. However that occurs, we don't know. It could be any by-election, not just one in particular, that I'm reluctant to talk about, because I'll have to name all of the candidates again. But Andy Burnham, what do you think about that? Having to call a general election if he becomes PM. And Kemi Badenoch, she says, "I want teachers and builders to become Tory MPs." She was writing in The Times on Friday, talking about how she feels the nation has basically been governed by HR on the back of Sir Tony Blair's intervention in UK politics. She's now written in The Telegraph today to say politics has become a stage. It needs to be a workshop. She says Conservative MPs will focus on the big decisions instead of acting as glorified social workers. Let me know what you think on all of those topics. 0344 499 1000. That's the number to call or send a voice note. Text the word talk to 87222 or follow us and send us a message on X @talktv, followed by your message. Paul,
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
We've talked a lot about those stories, and we'll be coming back to you on your views on particularly on the welfare stuff. I think because that's really important that people make sure that we are that this country is able to live within its means, that it's cutting the welfare budget, and basically turning this country around.
Yeah. Look. Yeah. The trouble is we never have our honest conversations. You and I do, this channel does, that's not what I mean. But as a broader diaspora of people, we don't have, but largely thanks to legacy media and people that want to control the narrative or are, I think, embarrassed by where we've led this country to. We don't discuss openly and honestly why the benefit system is failing. It's failing because we've opened up our borders and anybody can come in and claim from it. We cannot sustain that. And when you look at the demographics of who's claiming for what, particularly when it comes to children and work-related or lack of work-related benefits, then it's astonishing to see that it's, people of Pakistani or Bangladeshi heritage, they're claiming the vast amount of it. The white British nationals aren't claiming the largest amount, but you'd think they would be, considering they're 80% of the population. So can we afford to keep doing that? Now, the reason people don't have that conversation is because everything I've said then could have been misconstrued in some way as being racist or bigoted. I don't care. It's not. I'm happy with that. But we need politicians of that conviction as well, who aren't afraid to say, this just doesn't add up. In order for the system to work, you've got to have more people contributing than you have taking, okay? And that's simply not the case. And when the people are of foreign nationality, are often born foreign nationalities, how on earth could they have contributed? So how on earth can they justify taking it? They could justify taking it because it's perfectly legal for them to do so. But I don't think it should be. I think we need to have a much fairer system, particularly when it comes to working benefits, because how could you possibly come to the country, never work and take a benefit for never working? How could you possibly do that? I can understand if your child if you come here as a foreign national, your child has a disability, that's outside of your control, that's not your fault, then you can claim. But just coming here and not working ever, and then claiming a benefit, to me is ludicrous.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, a lot of people would agree with that. We're going to take a couple of calls now, I think, just to see what their take is on welfare, on the immigration system, and all the top stories that we've been talking about. Let's go to Pat in London.
Oh, good morning. Yeah, I mean, whenever you get... Well, it's like pensioners I'm talking about. I mean, you had Ben Habib on there earlier. The triple lock, I mean, every time one of these commentators comes on and starts talking about pensioners, it wants to make me reach for a plastic bowl and be bilious. Because these people, they're all millionaires. And they've got the brass neck to come on. They're all sitting comfortable. And they want to get rid of triple locks. Oh, we can't afford it. And you got the lords having £300 a day and they're hardly there. You've got the pension, you've got the MPs who will get gold-plated index-linked pensions when they go. All these council employees, Mayor Khan, nothing will happen to them, will it? Nothing will happen to their pensions. When it happens to their pensions, I'll be happy to get rid of the triple lock on mine. Now, dig the bones out of that one.
Well, I'm personally sympathetic to your view, I have to say. But there will be many people that say, well, hold on, OK, you're focusing on MPs and you're focusing on public sector workers' pay with their huge pensions that they get at the end of their working life. And, of course, you talked about the members of the House of Lords. You're absolutely right. They can just turn up and claim about 300 quid, I think, for not doing very much, it seems to me. But there will still be an awful lot of people of pensionable age who are very wealthy too. I mean, people could ask the question, does somebody like Sir Alan Sugar, need the triple lock? Does he need a state pension at all? There are some very wealthy pensioners out there that might not need it.
Yeah, but the point is, it doesn't. If they got rid of his triple lock, it wouldn't matter to him, would it?
Well,
it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter matter to him, but it would matter to me and of thousands of other ordinary Joe and Joanne pensioners out there in reality land.
I mean, the argument for scrapping the triple lock, some might say, is can't you just have it sort of as a double lock? So the triple lock means that your pension increases either by 2.5%, I think, every year, or it goes up with inflation, or in line with earnings on the national income, whichever is higher. So we could just say, well, hold on, let's just have maybe not even a double lock. Let's just have a single lock, and it just goes up by 2.5%.
Yeah, but their pensions go up by whatever inflation. It won't affect them because their pensions are gold-plated, index-linked. So let them eat a bit of sour along with the rest of us. Oh, and I've got another thing. I've got another topic for Nigel Farage if he ever gets on Desert Island Discs.
Oh yes.
Money, Money, Money by ABBA. Taxman by the Beatles. Money for Nothing by Dire Straits.
Well, I think you've probably given him a few reasons not to appear. But thank you very much for that, Pat. Thank you for your call. Keep those calls coming in, keep those texts coming in. 0344 499 1000. Paul, what do you make of Pat and keeping the triple lock? Do you think we should keep it? Do you think we should scrap it?
Look, first of all, what Pat says is true. The people that are making decisions are not impacted materially by the decisions they make, and perhaps we should have more politics where those that are making the decisions are impacted by they, you know, if it's with regard to immigration, then they're not directly affected by it, or they are part of the immigrant population, so they champion it. Like Pat says, the triple lock means everything to him, because if it wasn't at 2.5% or whatever was higher, he has no other means of increasing his earnings, so he would be tremendously impacted. So there is an argument maybe for means testing of the state pension, and if you do have a certain amount of money, like several millions of pounds in the bank, then perhaps you shouldn't, and it should be for the most needy. But there are so many questions to answer here. I don't think the triple lock. I have a great deal of empathy with those on pensions. You know, they've worked all of their lives. They've put in, they've seen the good times, they've contributed to the good times, and now it's the bad times, and they should reap what they sowed. They shouldn't necessarily be impacted by the decisions of people today because they've worked all of their lives. However, we have to cut our cloth, so I understand both sides of the argument. We do need to look after our older people in this country. We need to look after our children better, and we need to look after our old people better. And the triple lock does look after our older people. You don't ever hear, by the way, anyone from about 50 onwards complaining about the triple lock, because they can either see it coming or they're benefiting from it. What you'll hear is 30, late 20-something saying, this is outrageous, why should they be looked after? I'm not being looked after. So, you know, I think it's a matter of perspective.
I'm in that category.
Well, good for you, Charlie.
20, obviously.
Yeah, what age? It's 21 now, isn't it?
I'm actually 36.
So you're 10 years younger than me. But look, I think when you go through these times like this, it seems very easy to grab the low-hanging fruit or take the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance right now would seem to many on the left just to scrap the triple lock. I don't think it is. I think we should be looking well into the future and making sure our older generation are looked after.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think it's about looking after the all ends of the spectrum, young people and older people, but it's also making sure that our public services can all work, that we can fund those properly. Let's see what Kevin has to say from North Hampshire. Hi, Kevin.
Hello. Yeah, just listening to all the rhetoric and everything else going on. With regards to welfare, to my mind, there's one way of help in this welfare budget, and that's you consider people who are on welfare benefits are government employees. So why don't we put them to work picking litter up, just improving this country? They're being paid, so why can't they go out and do a job? Now, I appreciate there's an element of those people who are incapable, and I would say that's in the minority. You've got all these young people that you're saying can't find jobs or whatever. There are jobs out there to be done in this country.
Well,
and if they want to claim their benefits, go out and do a day's work for it.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, look, what the government, to its credit, because we're very balanced here, not that, maybe that's a problem, I don't know. But
I don't think balance is a problem.
The government did try to put forward today, or earlier in the week, through Alan Milburn, a former Labour Health Secretary, plans to try and get young people who are not in employment, education or training, getting young people into work, which has obviously been a problem. It's been a historical problem for successive
You could do that. You don't need policies to do that. It's a simple thing.
Yeah.
There are jobs out there to be done. If you want to get your benefits, you go out there and do it.
I think a lot of... Kevin,
you can't just sit on your arse and wait.
Kevin, I'm absolutely in agreement with you, but I think it is also important to make sure that businesses are able to employ young people, or anyone for that matter. They don't employ people if they've got, fine margins, and if they see that their taxes are going up, particularly national insurance contributions. That's not going to incentivise businesses to try and grow. They're going to cut costs instead of trying to grow their business by, recruiting more people and being able to fund for new people to come into their company.
But what I'm saying is, the government are paying these people so the government can put them to work. That's it.
No, Kevin, I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Thanks so much for your call, Kevin. 0344 499 1000. That's the number to call. Get your voice notes on. We'll get as many calls as we can as we steamroll to the end of this 3 hours sitting in with me, Paul Cox, listening to all of that. And Paul has got to now listen to me read out what you've all been waiting for. I know. I can see the camera zoom in, close up. Everybody's paying attention to what I have to say, including, I think it was Amanda earlier on, wasn't it, who sort of liked my dulcet tones. But anyway, here we go. This is time for the Cup competition, the World Cup competition, which you've all been waiting for. And it is thus. The FIFA World Cup 2026. What's wrong with that? What's wrong? I haven't started yet. So, but I thought it was. I thought this has happened to me for the last week now. I've been reading this competition, and I am the voice of God. I'm channeling the voice of God, which is that big voice that you hear on things like the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent and all the rest of it. And I'm trying my best.
You are trying your best, Charlie. I can vouch for that at least.
Thank you. Thank you for that backhanded compliment there. Thank you very much. I'll try again. Shall I try it again? Right, we've got the thumbs up from the
give it a go.
Okay.
I won't laugh. I haven't laughed yet.
No, you did. You did very well, actually. I'm fully focused. Okay, here we go. The FIFA World Cup 2026 is almost here, and thanks to Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier, our friends at TalkSport are giving you the chance to be there. Adidas is sending you and a friend to Dallas to see England versus Croatia live on June 17th. With return flights, accommodation, spending money, tickets, and your very own Adidas official match ball trianda. Be at England's first game in the FIFA World Cup at one of the world's best stadiums. Ready to get that winning feeling? Here's how to enter.
Get ready for that winning feeling. For your chance to win, head to talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Texts and online entries cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 1st of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. See full terms and conditions at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. Full T's and C's at win.talk.tv.
they found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon to you. This is Charlie Rowley, sitting in for Alex Phillips here on the home of common sense at Talk. I'm delighted to be joined for the final counter through this hour, up until 1 p.m. Paul Cox, comedian. Legend.
Lover.
So, well, I didn't think we were revealing that. I didn't think we were revealing that on this show. I've been exposed.
I mean, general lover, not just you and I.
Do you know, when I got the text this morning from Chris, who was consoling me about the football, and then we did actually do a bit of work, I thought this was going to be just a smooth sailing... I mean, the wheels have come off. The wheels come off.
You put me involved, it's a dangerous mix.
Delighted to see and spend company with you all through to 1 o'clock this afternoon. Let us know what you think. 0344 499 1000. We've been talking all kinds of stories going through the front page of the newspapers, talking about the BBC, who have allegedly banned Nigel Farage from appearing on its flagship programme, Desert Island Discs. We're asking the question, why does the left feel so threatened by reform? We've also talked a lot about pensions, and your text messages have been flying in about the triple lock. That's got everybody going after the former Tory Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, said that actually that now needs to be looked at and reformed. That's a different approach to what others are saying, so he's distanced himself from the Conservative Party there. Let me know your thoughts. The calls are flying off the handle, and we've got Brian in London. Hello, Brian.
Oh, good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Paul. Paul, you were very interesting, I must say that.
Thank you, Brian.
Comments, basically. Okay, the triple lock. I mean, the reason why they introduced the triple lock is because our pension was the lowest in the Western world. And if we had started off with a reasonable pension, they would never have to introduce the triple lock. And when you look at civil servants, the amount of taxpayers' money goes into their pension, 20% of their earnings goes from us, the taxpayer. So why don't they cut back on civil servants' pensions? In other words, I work for a company, and when I worked for them, I paid into a pension scheme, and I think the company put 4% in. So why have they got also these people, as Ben Habib said, who've never paid into a pension, getting pensions?
I think you're absolutely right, Brian. You know, civil servants that have had gold-plated pensions, particularly when they leave, you know, and this doesn't just extend, by the way, when we talk about civil servants, I know lots of people think it's just Whitehall here in central London. We're talking about chief executives of local authorities, local councils, who get paid, by the way, more than the Prime Minister. Now, whatever you think about the Prime Minister, whoever it is on any given day of the week, they have a set salary. But how is it that local authority, you know, leaders, council chief executives earn more than the Prime Minister?
Yeah, I mean, look at Sadiq Khan. Look at, what's his name, who was a leader before Boris. He's got 3 pensions. He was the Mayor of London, he had another job, and he had another job, and he got 3 pensions, basically.
Ken Livingstone. Ken Livingstone? Is that who you mean?
Yeah, Ken Livingstone, yeah, he's got 3 pensions, basically. So the whole system needs referring to, basically, from the beginning. If we got even now, if you look at the pensions across Europe, I looked at it, and we're still the lowest pensions in Europe and the Western world by miles, basically. I mean, we get, I think it's 12.5 grand a year. some pensions in different countries are 20, 18 grand, 16 grand, nowhere near what they get at all. So until you actually equalise it out and the pensioners get a decent pension, if you got a decent pension, you wouldn't have to have the triple lock, would you?
Right. Speak a lot of sense. I think that's one way to look at it. Reform pensions before we tackle the triple lock. Before we get the views of Paul, let's go to Josie in Leicester.
Hello, how are you guys? All right, Charlie Paul?
Hello, Josie. Charlie Paul, what a combination.
Very well. This is how rumours start. That's how, with sort of, families together like that.
Two or three things. So one is you can get a hay fever jab, and that will solve it. Because I'm really bad with hay fever.
You're absolutely right. I have heard about this, and funny enough, I saw a friend the other day who has been insisting that I get it because he takes it, and so far to an extent that he was going to put me in touch with his doctor. But I've suffered for years, and I know lots of people have suffered for years. But I just haven't gone down that route for some reason. But you're right, it is available.
Yeah, I did it last year and this year, and honestly, it's really, really helped. It's a life changer.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I'll take. Yeah. I promise to look into it. I promise you, Josie.
Okay. Second point is I was in Makerfield yesterday. Unbelievable. I was out with Robert, Lee Anderson, a lovely lady called Anita, and it was rammed. Reform are kicking it there. Absolutely kicking it. The atmosphere is great. The people in Makerfield are amazing, and I just hope they, make that change for them.
I mean, just more broadly outside of the Makerfield, obviously you're a Reform supporter. I mean, how long have you been a Reform supporter? Did you change political party? Are you sort of,
I was a Conservative up until the Boris wave, which absolutely has destroyed Leicester. Really, really has. Since we couldn't believe our eyes. We were like, what the hell's going on? It's like plane landing after plane landing. I mean, what's going on? Honestly, it was that bad. Right, and it was lovely to go to Makerfield, and they've not had that impact yet. But the worry is, if Labour gets in, they may have that impact, and it's not fair because it's such a beautiful village, town, people, so lovely, friendly. Every door I knocked on, they were so welcoming. They wanted to listen, and it was absolutely really, really wonderful.
Josie, do you mind me asking, how old are you? Don't mind me asking, or just a rough age? I mean. Don't worry,
over 50. Over 50.
Okay, because we've been talking a lot about pensions as well, the triple lock and things like that.
Yes,
is that
was my third point.
Go for it. Tell us, what's your view? Right. Should we scrap the triple lock?
No, not at all. Why are we being penalised? This is really anxiety stuff for people who've worked here since they've been at age of 13. I've worked here. I've lived all my life, and I've worked from the age of 13. Why should we give up? Why did it always go after the triple lock? There are other benefits within the whole spectrum that they can cut, and they can do that very well. They don't, they just keep tackling the 12,500. What is that these days? You can't even live on that in the first 4, 5, 6 months. So that's not even affordable to live on. So no, I'm sorry, no. People that come here, you either contribute or you get nothing. And I couldn't believe earlier, I think it was Ben, that says the foreigners that never worked here, who are at an older age, now they're getting pension. Why?
No, I think you're absolutely right, JC. I mean, many questions posed there. Lots of people getting in touch about the triple log as well. Thank you so much for your time, JC. All the best in Leicester. Paul, just your thoughts about what JC was saying, particularly about the triple lock, and of course Kevin and Brian before that.
Yeah, look, I mean, Brian said I was interesting, so obviously so far Brian wins maximum amount of points from me.
I think he's had a drink.
I don't care if Brian's had a drink. He sounds like a stand-up guy to me. But Josie, look, it's interesting to hear from Josie and Brian, of course, who are people who are directly affected by this. As Brian pointed out, the state pension is not a lot of money, 13,000, 14,000 pounds a year. that's not going to get you, if you haven't had your mortgage paid off, if your rent's not being paid, that's not going to get you far. That's barely going to pay your energy bills. You're probably reliant on a private pension. You're probably relying on savings, if any such things still exist. Obviously, interest rates on savings are absolutely minimal these days. So, look, the pensioners have paid in. It's astonishing for them to look and see that people that have maybe only been here 10 years are able to take a triple locked state pension also. So it's wonderful to hear their voices, because it's very easy for us to sit here and discuss this from a sort of abstract perspective, where we know that there are a whole bunch of other things that need paying for. We know that there are. But what would you do with pensioners that didn't have a triple locked pension? If they were stuck on £12,000 in 10 years' time, well, this would become a massive issue. My argument always has remained the same, is that actually continuing to increase it by the percentages that it is, triple locked in, is a much cheaper way of looking after our elderly people in this country than it is to do anything else, because the consequences of something else would be much more damaging. It's so short-sighted. We just need to look at proportionally, who are we giving our money away to? How have they contributed? We wouldn't expect it. I mean, 20 years ago, I've got family in Canada, 26 years ago, because it was 2000. I looked at potentially going to live and work in Canada for a few years as a 20-year-old. And my family in Canada had a factor of supporting me entirely for 10 years. And beyond that 10 years, I would then start contributing. This was just 20 years ago in Canada. I can't understand why we don't have things like this here.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I don't like the trade-off between older people and younger people. And I think, okay, yes, it is difficult for young people to get a job, to get on the housing ladder, and all the rest of it. But if you're taking older people, for example, adult social care is an absolute basket case in this country, actually, which successive governments pledged that they're going to do something about it, and nothing ever seems to get done. Josie was talking about her trip to Makerfield, which I have tried to avoid through most of the weekend, but such is life. But because we talked about Makerfield, we've got to make it absolutely clear who all of those confirmed candidates are in the Makerfield by-election. Here's a list for you. We have Jake Austin for the Liberal Democrats. We have Count Binface for the Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham for the Labour Party. Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party. John Dyer, Independent. Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party. Paul Gould, Independent. Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Palm, I think that's right, Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, the Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin EU. And Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. And just like that, there you are, a full candidate list of the Makerfield by-election. Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. We're going to take a short break. More after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, welcome back to Talk with me, Charlie Rowley, sitting in for Alex Phillips. Looking forward to getting through all your calls and texts in the last 25 minutes as we take you through all the way to 1 o'clock. One of the stories that we haven't talked about so much about is that nearly 7 in 10 Brits oppose Labour's plans to weaken English language tests for migrants. This is by replacing in-person exams with assessments that are in the style of sort of Duolingo, this app that you can try and learn a new language with, which I had attempted myself once or twice to no success. We're going to be talking about that now with Andrew Tettenborn, writer and academic. Hello, Andrew.
Good afternoon, Charlie.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us this afternoon. What do you make of this? The idea that actually in the UK today, when you need to take an English language test, which is vital, I think, in my view, in order to come into the country and to actually be integrated and be able to contribute properly, that these tests are now being watered down.
Well, this has all the signs of an enormous government snafu, which the government then tried hard to cover up. What's one interesting point is that if you look, it took an FOI request, a Freedom of Information request, to find out about this, and it even then took some pulling out of the government. This has all the signs of, I think, civil servants taking over the process. What I suspect happened was this. Somebody in the Home Office said to the Home Secretary, look, Minister, the contract for English language tests comes up for renewal. You'll remember, Home Secretary, we're going digital. Wouldn't it be so much simpler to get to sort of put it out to a digital competition? The current people who actually administer it fairly well all withdrew from the competition because they knew that if this would be a digital test, the chances were it would be as easy to cheat on as just about anything. They then left Duolingo. The civil servants then said, Minister, we have a company that might be prepared to bid. We've arranged a meeting with the junior minister. And so Duolingo gets shoehorned in. It's a thoroughly bad idea. If you want to come to this country, we welcome immigrants who will contribute to us. If they are not prepared to show us in concrete terms that they are good at English, and indeed very good at English, my instinct is to say, go away and try again when you are. And the result of this, if Duolingo get the contract, will, I think, be to make our English tests something of a joke.
Well, I think a lot of people absolutely agree with that. I mean, you talked about this could be something that's come from a civil servant in a back room of the Home Office somewhere. Some bright young spark has decided, yes, Minister, let's move things in this particular direction. I mean, we know that the Home Office is a bit of a case. You know, it's often referred to as not fit for purpose, but that's a title that it seems to have had for many, many years now. What is it about the Home Office where it seems to me, when you hear about these kinds of proposals, that they are completely at odds with the direction of travel that the country want us to be in? So, for example, we don't want to see large numbers of people coming to this country illegally. We want to stop that. But, the Home Office doesn't want to call them illegal immigrants. They want to call them, I think, something else. I can't remember what they wanted to do. Irregular.
Well, there is very much a Sir Humphrey attitude in the Home Office. There is something of a tradition that the Home Office takes about 6 months to tame each Home Secretary when they move in and make sure that he or she does what they're told. Now, one interesting feature about this whole thing is that presumably Shabana Mahmood could actually say to the Home Office, look, this is actually too important simply to put out to a contract tendering process, the same sort of process that you use for buying, I don't know, paper clips and red tape. This is something really important and we've got to get it right. And I simply will not stand for a test taken entirely online. Shabana Mahmood could do that. The reaction from the Home Office would be explosive. And I think that is one problem, actually, that to a large extent we are run by the Sir Humphreys, who will gently say, rather like, yes, Minister, sorry, Minister, this can't be done. This isn't the way we do things.
And is that a reason why, do you think, that, I mean, just drifting slightly off topic, but it's one that lots of people have been calling in and texting about. You know, we feel as though there's this sort of blob in society still, as my former boss once put it, whether it's the civil service, whether it's the judiciary, whether it's our schools and our public sector more generally, that there is this sort of Sir Humphrey box-ticking, left-leaning ideology that's been so infiltrated that nobody can really sort of tear it up, that's got us into some of the problems that we're in more broadly as a country. And that's
I think you're quite right.
I
think you're quite right. This is a case, actually, of process over everything else. Have a look at what the Home Office said when, I think it was the Daily Mail approached it and said, what's going on? And they said, this is our standard robust tendering process in operation. What matters is whether you get the process right, whether the right guys tick the right boxes, whether it was signed off by the right department. That comes first. What comes second is whether it's the right solution for Britain and what the people of Britain actually want. And in this case, it isn't.
Well, funny talking about the process, I mean, people accuse the Prime Minister of just being a process Prime Minister, you know, not having a political ideology, not quite knowing what he wants to actually do with the country, but it's a sort of, right, what's the issue before me? OK, let's go through the process and, you know, absolutely
It is. But one point, of course, is I'm a law professor, but I'm very happy to accept the problems of lawyers. You will, of course, have noticed that both the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary are lawyers through and through. Their veins flow not with blood, but with good black lawyers' ink. And I'm afraid it shows.
But Shabana Mahmood is slightly more on the front foot, is she not, when it comes to things like immigration and legal immigration? I mean, she's taken a very hard line. She knows what she wants to do, really, in the Home Office. It's then just getting the officials to sort of dance to her tune.
Well, I must admit, that slightly surprised me. I was hoping that Shabana Mahmood would put her head above the parapet here, because undoubtedly she could, and she would actually, she's missing a trick by not doing it, because that would do wonders for the Labour figures in places like Makerfield if she actually came out and said, sorry guys, this won't do. Why she hasn't done it is slightly beyond me, actually.
Well, there's lots of stories about Shabana Mahmood that keep knocking around. One is that the Prime Minister has fallen out with her, essentially, and he will want to tank, I think, maybe more to the left of his party, so, you know, her position is slightly precarious under his prime ministerialship if he continues to remain. But there is also a story that Andy Burnham is considering lining her up to be his Chancellor, were he to become the PM. What do you make of that? Shabana Mahmood as
I would be enormously surprised were she to feature in a Burnham cabinet. Now, I must admit, one reason I don't bet on the horses is I always lose. But my suspicion is that there's no love lost between them, and that it's highly unlikely that Shabana Mahmood would appear in a Burnham cabinet, if only because she is too closely tied still to the Starmer years. I may be proved wrong, I don't know.
Andrew, writer and academic Andrew Tettenborn, thank you so much for your time. We've got to leave it there this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining me. Let me know what you think about that conversation. As that conversation took place, we did mention Makerfield, and therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we have to now play the candidates, the full list of confirmed candidates for the Makerfield by-election yet again. In case you missed them the first time and the time before that, here they are. We have Jake Austin for the Liberal Democrats. We have Count Binface for the Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham for the Labour Party. Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party. John Dyer, Independent. Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party. Paul Gould, Independent. Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Powell, I think that's right, Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, the Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin EU. And Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. Well, there you are, ladies and gentlemen, the full list of the confirmed candidates for the Makerfield by-election. After the break, we'll be taking all of your calls and texts, and I'll be going through those with the lovely Paul Cox. Stay tuned. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips. This is the home of common sense. This is Talk.
they found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon to you all, you lovely listeners. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips, and for the next just shy of 10 minutes, or just over 10 minutes, we'll be taking as many calls as we possibly can. We've had a little bit of feedback, though, on the back of me complaining about my hay fever, some suggestions, which I can't read out, but that's very kind of you. I'll know exactly what to do. But also on the back of how I read out that World Cup competition. Rather than Butch, Jules says, when I see you, I always think of a cute little Charlie the Elf from when you dressed up at Christmas a few years ago, from Jules in Bristol. I can confirm, Jules, I did do that. And I was in this very studio with the then Dr. David Bull, who was presenter here for Weekend Breakfast. Many good times had here.
I bet.
Hi, Charlie, your competition promotion was adequate.
No, it was above adequate.
Well,
it was above adequate.
Angie doesn't seem to think so. But thank you, Angie. All calls and texts welcome. Just a bit of fun there for you. Right, let's go to our calls. We've got all the phones are ringing off the handle. Let's start with Jamie in Wales. Good afternoon, Jamie.
Good afternoon. My question is, why doesn't the government raise the retirement age to 65 for women, 67 for men, right across the board? Civil servants, public servants, everyone. They would save billions.
So you think people, Jamie, should work longer in their life? Is that what you're saying? Raise the retirement age so people work longer. That's not going to be a vote winner, I don't think. Call me old-fashioned.
Well, it might not be, but civil servants used to be able to retire at some 50, 55. Apparently, it's been raised this year to 57. But I thought David Cameron said at one time, we're all in this together. So why aren't we all women, whatever... health, doctors, councils, civil servants, why aren't we all retiring at 65 for women and 67 for men, right across the board?
Well, it's a question. I'm not too sure as to how popular it would be, but you're absolutely right. That sentiment by David Cameron many years ago, that we're all in this together, it certainly doesn't feel like it now. Jamie in Wales, thank you so much for your call. Let's go to Charlie, who's calling from Heathrow. Great name.
Oh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, just thinking about the pension thing. You're saying about people like Alan Sugar, possibly a little. I've not earned as much as Alan Sugar over the years, but I've been reasonably successful. I end up giving most of my pension back in tax, and know that if you're getting the 12,000, I don't even get that because I didn't quite pay enough in. But that people, they seem to be pocketed it, but most of it you'll be giving it back in tax. But no one ever says that.
Well, I think you're probably true, Paul. What do you think?
I mean, particularly if you've got a Good to see you, Charlie. I can't see you actually, mate. Don't worry. Good to hear from you. Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that anybody that's made a success of themselves will have a lot of it taken back, and it's just you just feel like you're working again for that same money that was taxed previously, of course.
Yes, I mean, for years I employed 40 staff at one time, paid huge amounts of national insurance, VAT, and everything. And, not a huge benefit on it, So, but you can see how, there just seems to be this one way, let's pick on the pensioners. And unfortunately, pensioners at the bottom end, as someone mentioned earlier on, are only, if they get £12,500 a year, you can get a little bit more, are really struggling. I mean, compared to other European countries, our pensions nearly for them, but it's tiny. It's a really small amount compared to them. Ours is the lowest in the G7.
That's incredible.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you very much, Charlie. A couple of calls there on pensions. Thank you so much. Sorry, we've got to try and rattle through some of these because so many people have called in. Lots of people talking about pensions, but also people talking about Reform UK, because we posed the question at the very top of the show, why does the left feel so threatened by reform? And I think we've got Mark in Lincolnshire who's going to tell us that he is a raving lefty. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, right.
What would you like to say, Mark?
I got excited then.
As far as acceptable right-wing parties going, pretty far onto the right, because I'm a Restore Britain member.
Right, okay.
It's definitely not on the left.
So you're
definitely not on the left.
You're a member of Restore?
I am, yes, mate.
Okay.
Did you want to ask something?
No. Well, what did you want to say? No, because I've got it in front of me that you think, but Restore are okay. They're new. They seem to have an online traction. They might be sort of featuring in impulses, but they're not going to go on to form the next government, are they? Surely.
I think they can. Yeah, I genuinely do. I wouldn't have joined them if I didn't think there was a possibility of it. I think there's a movement there, and some level of awakening of the, nearly 45% of voters that never vote. If you notice the Great Yarmouth, the 10 seats they won in Great Yarmouth in the councils. If you actually go and look at the actual data there, the voter turnout was really bloody high, far higher than it had been for
46%.
Local elections. Yeah, it was pretty high for that area for local elections. It's a party that seems to be doing something. We see that in the current situation. I won't mention the place, but you know what I'm on about.
Thank you.
We see that.
Yes. No, I know exactly.
We see that happening now. I mean, at the end of the day, Charlie, I'm sorry if this causes you any problems, but you look at what Reform post out. They posted an internal poll last week, so I think Wednesday or Thursday last week. And on this poll, it squared them up 10 points ahead of Labour, and they were bragging about it. We're on 30 points or 30%, Labour on 20, the Tories on 19. And I looked at this and I thought, hang on a minute, there's 31% missing from this poll. Well, where is it? Where's this other 31%? So obviously I did the inevitable. I reposted their poll with the 31%, where I think that 31% probably is, which is the reason they've not put it on there. So there definitely seems to be something happening there. I think people prefer much more straight-talking politics. And just for example, how could I ever vote for Reform, Charlie, when you've got Nadine Dorries, who's the architect of the Online Safety Act, Robert Jenrick, who oversaw the clandestine importation of 30,000 Afghans, some of whom, by the way, have raped and murdered British citizens, Nazim Zahawi, vaccine mandates that cost thousands of NHS and care workers their jobs, Suella Braverman that oversaw the initial 1.3 million immigrants of the Boris wave. How the hell does Nigel Farage think I'm going to vote for that?
Well, they would argue that they have joined Reform because, even though they might have been part of that government, they were ministers, it wasn't their direction of travel. It wasn't their choice. They were led by, at that time, other politicians, by other prime ministers of the day. So they've left the party to go to Reform to actually deliver what they actually believe in.
Really? Well, at the time, they were all selling it pretty hard, weren't they? I mean, Robert Jenrick, he's a classic example, isn't he? I mean, he wrote a whole piece telling us how resettlement of Afghans was a national project. You're telling me he's had a Damocles moment and he's suddenly Mr. Right Wing, and he wants rid of loads and loads of illegals. Really, honestly, I mean, I'm sorry, Charlie. It takes a hell of a lot more than that. I'm not going to buy into something that I just do not trust.
Well,
you go on their website, they've got about 12, 14 policies on their website. You open up, you click the read full policy button, and what you get is 2 paragraphs on nothing.
Well,
just a statement.
No, well,
not the full policy, apparently.
Well, I know that might be true. I don't know. I'll check it out after this. But don't apologise, is what I was going to say, is because you've answered... thank you very much, Mark. You've answered my question. Really, what I was going to ask you is because there will be people who ask, well, why do people feel as though they can't support reform? I mean, we've been talking about why there is so much support for reform, why the left might fear them, but why restore and not reform? And you answered it very clearly there, that actually you think that reform have too many conservatives in. So when people then say, well, the Conservatives and reform won't do a deal, some will want them to do a deal, if that muddies the waters, that might be the reason why people then are looking for a complete alternative that might still be on the centre-right or right politics, and that seems to be Restore at the minute.
Yeah, I don't think anyone supporting reform would consider themselves centre-right. I think they'd all consider themselves the only right-wing party in the UK. Whether that's true or not is up for debate. But certainly they as many reform supporters would still say, kind of surprised by some of the welcoming of some of the architects of some of our downfall, i.e. the Conservative MPs coming across. Also, and it should be pointed out that they also see Nigel Farage in that mould as well. They see him as kind of Tory-like, Thatcherite. And look, we focus because we're on the right and we're looking for a right government. A lot of our focus is on reform. It seems like the most the highest probability chance of a right-wing government comes from reform. But to take Restore and say that they're not going to be influential in any way, I think is going to be a mistake on the right, because I think we're just about to discover how influential they are in Makerfield, and there'll be a whole... Sorry, did I say I didn't mean that? There's going to be a very interesting wash-up after that.
I think we have just about got through that because we have read it out 3 times already, and I think we can say the word. But I think we just can't go into the policies or what the practicalities of what those